Alrighty. So today I wanted to start a new series on surviving Mars here. Now, surviving Mars is a really cool game. It came out in like 2018, and I used to play it like somewhere around 2020, but the game is like really difficult. Well, I wouldn't say difficult. It requires a lot of planning, and that wasn't something that I really knew whenever I first started playing this game. But about a week ago, I started picking it back up, and I just started like really trying to craft out to me what is the best way to actually succeed. Like whenever I used to play this game a couple years ago, I was never able to like even get to a point where I had a sustainable like population of colonists on the island, or not on the island, on Mars. So today I wanted to start playing this game after I recently got pretty good at like actually making something work. And so there's all these different mission sponsors. And now what's really cool about these mission sponsors is that each of them has like not a specific way to play, but it's got like a lot of really good bonuses. So it's like all sorts of different options here. And whenever I just started playing recently, I was doing India. Or not India. I think it was India. No, it's China. Yes, China. And I was going for the achievement to get, I think it's 200 people living on Mars before the 100th soul. So I ended up achieving that, and that was kind of like my goal, was to like get good enough to where I could like complete one of these mission sponsors little like objectives. And so there's all sorts of like different objectives. Quickly, let's go and check in on some of them. Let's see which one I completed. I completed Interesting times. Place China and reach a population of 200 before Seoul 100. And so there's like a bunch of these. Um, you can see which ones are like achieved by the most people. And so the Newark plays the Church of the Newark and have 100 people born on Mars before 100, the 100th day. So there's like all these like really cool little objectives. And so today, I think a pretty easy one is going to be the service of humankind. Here, play as India and have 5 domes before Soul 100. Should be able to achieve that relatively quickly. So let's go ahead and play as India here. And so every single thing has something really cool. Every single mission sponsor has something really cool that they can do, right? Like USA, you have lots of money, you get lots of free research points, periodic additional funding. That's like really good. So definitely this one's pretty easy. On top of that, they have a large rocket payload. Blue Sun Corporation, what's really cool about these guys is they have the highest price for the rare metals. So as you can see there, right below the research per soul, rare metals price 30 million for just one. And so if you go and look through, you'll see that nothing else really comes close. The lower that is, rare metals price, kind of the more difficult it is, because it is a really good way to make money early on. And on top of that, they can do all sorts of things. So something really cool that I was thinking about is to go Blue Sun Corporation, and then to go through to the astrogeologist. Start with a rare metal deposit revealed. Extractor production increased by 10%, which is really good. Bonus tech, deep scanning. So it allows you to deep scan sectors for deep deposits. Deep deposits are really important because they are the key to the longevity of your population. Like, you're going to need metal. It's nice, well, you're pretty much going to need rare metals as well, which are the ones that typically sell, but you use them to make electronics. So there's like all these things that you're going to need, and without like resources on Mars, the population's just going to become unsustainable. So astrogeologist is really cool because they can immediately start scanning for deep deposits. But on top of that, playing as the Blue Sun Corporation, you can see the third little thing down there, the little, I don't know what you'd call that, a tick mark, something like that. Probes can discover deep rare metal deposits. So your probes and just normal scanning are both finding deep rare metal at least, and then the normal scanning finds any deep deposit. Deep metal extraction can extract deep metals and deep rare metal deposits. So immediately, if you find a deep rare metal or a deep metal deposit, you can just start off being able to mine all of these very important resources. So what I'm getting at is that you have all these different options for mission sponsors, and each of them brings something to the table. Like they're all really, really useful. Every single one of them. Even like the more difficult things, like something like Russia or Church of the Newark. Church of the Newark is nice because every single colonist will have the religious trait. And then if you build up, I believe they're called the playgrounds, then all of the colonists that are born on Mars will start having the religious trait as well. And so birth rate is doubled. But some things like this, like the more difficult ones, the ones near the low, like end of this list, the bottom parts, they're going to be more difficult, right? So Church of New York, they only start out with $4 billion, which is really low in terms of like setting up your starting colony. On top of that, hydroponic farms don't really work nearly as well. Like I wouldn't even say that they're a viable option at all for food. And on top of that, something really, really difficult with them, with the Church of the New York, is that they actually don't generate research on their own. So you need to either outsource your research or try and get people onto Mars early on to start generating research. So you need to find like some alternative way because you don't start off with like a passive amount of research. Something like Russia, why it's difficult is they have kind of a star loading, kind of a low starting money. But on top of that, rockets have extended travel time. That's really difficult. But I mean, Russia seems like it's pretty alright because you can start getting a lot of fuel very early on. Fueled extractors, you can put fuel into all of your extractors. I didn't know that. That's really, really cool. And so you can make all of your extractors work like triple overtime. So there's like all sorts of like really, really cool decisions that you can make here. And I'm going to be going with India. And we're trying to get a total of 5 domes on Mars, which should be pretty easy. And so the commander profile, this is also very important. And so combining various mission sponsors with commander profiles kind of creates like different little ways to go about setting up your population on Mars. Really, really cool stuff. So I think I'm going to go with the ecologist because service comfort of decorations increased by 10% or by 10 points. That's kind of whatever. But the bonus tech, Hanging Gardens, unlocks a spire which improves residences in the dome. So all of the homes that are in the dome with the Hanging Gardens are going to be better, right? And so I'll get into exactly why that's going to be important for us later on. And so as we're playing as India, it probably makes sense to go with the Indian flag. The mystery, I've only finished one mystery so far, and so I'm going to choose, I don't want to do like the same mission over and over, so I'm going to start going down the list as I make these series. Game rules, I don't really want to change anything except for the fact that I do want to set up the cold waves, the dust devils, dust storms, and meteor showers all to the max settings. Those are the only ones that I really want to change. The last arc, this is alright in terms of like searching for extra difficulty in the game. You can only call one passenger rocket. Kind of makes it pretty difficult. Hunger, once you start to pick up how to set up food, how much food you're going to be needing and stuff like that, then this isn't really that much of a problem. Inflation and import prices increase over time. That's good. But again, once you start making it to the point where you can set up sustainable populations, then you don't really need to be importing a whole lot of stuff. So, I mean, it's kind of 50-50. If you're like pretty good at the game, then you could leave this on and it wouldn't really affect you too much. Long ride rocket travel time to and from Mars is three times longer. That's all right. Previously, I had done a run where I had this on and I like made it really far. I think that's the one where I made it past the 100th soul. Either way, like it wasn't really too much of a bother. Like I was getting actually kind of used to it, and then I started playing the next couple of games like without this turned on, and I was like, wow, these rockets show up in like a day. Like, they get here really quick. So a good challenge. Rebel yell, colonists periodically become renegades, crime is more severe. I don't think that this is like fun at all. I've never even turned it on. So it's just something that I'm going to steer away from. Um, I mean, if you wanted a challenge, I think this would be probably one of the most difficult challenges to take, because once your population starts to like fall apart, it falls apart very, very quickly. And so if you have people being renegades, not wanting to work, I don't know if they work, but I don't think that they work. So if they're not working and they're actually causing problems for your colonists, it can quickly get out of hand. You need everyone to be doing everything at like 100% of the time. So I'll get into how to effectively get the most out of your population at all times once we kind of get into the video. Last arc, I just went over that. Pretty easy. Another decent one is amateurs, no specialist applicants. That's all right. That's actually kind of fun. I did the church one with this. It was kind of fun because we pulled everyone over and everyone was just like had no specialization. So it was really cool. And I never even made it to the point where I had an actual school to start teaching people. But either way, I'm just going to take the ones that just make it like hell on Mars. And so that's going to be what we're going with. And so this is going to be the setup for this series. Rename colony. We'll call it New Mumbai. I don't know if there's a New Mumbai already somewhere out in the world, but if not, then the New Mumbai is going to be on Mars. And so getting into the prefabs. So this is pretty important. There's lots of decisions, and this was a moment that I kind of struggled with whenever I previously played. Like, I wasn't sure like what I should be doing, how much of this I should take, all these different decisions that you can be making. And so it's kind of like a, oof, like that's a bit loud. I'll try and talk while I'm not clicking on those, and then just turn down the noises later. But in terms of the prefab buildings, real quick, I'll give you like some general ideas to help you. So the first rocket that comes across, you're always going to want to bring a fuel refinery and a moisture vaporator. So the moisture vaporator produces 1 water per, I think, hour per sol, right? But pretty much just 1, right? It produces 1. The fuel refinery consumes 1, right? And so you can set these two up to be kind of like their own little closed off system, where they pretty much like just generate fuel, right? After a couple of days, you'll have enough fuel to fuel up a rocket. And so that's decent. Stirling generators, never worth it. Maybe later on. Actually, they're really, really, really good. It's just that they're going to consume polymer, right? And so polymer is easy to get early on. It's easy to set up your polymer factories and stuff. But the thing is that all factories are going to require machine parts. So what I opt for, instead of trying to set up polymer and trying to set up batteries and Stirling generators and all this stuff, is to instead try and rush machine parts. You want to start producing machine parts like right away. It's the first thing that you want to do. It's actually one of the few payloads that I'll actually bring across. Second up is electronics, because your machine parts factory is going to require electronics. But the thing is your machine parts factory can supply all of your infrastructure, all of your infrastructural needs, right? So you can set up a bunch of wind turbines. Wind turbines are never not effective. So they consume machine parts though, as compared to, let's say you wanted to do solar panels with batteries. Like, solar panels are good because that only requires metal, which is really easy to come across, but the batteries are going to require polymer. That's going to be kind of difficult. So if you don't have a polymer factory, maybe you can get lucky and find some. And if you don't end up finding some, then you're going to have to call them from Earth. And you might end up calling kind of a lot. Electronics factory, this is a bit later, so I would say you want to rush a machine parts factory and then eventually build a polymer factory, and then finally you'd want to set up an electronics factory. Once you have all of these set up, and as long as you have good deposits that you're exploiting, then your population should kind of survive forever. So first off, you want to set up machine parts factory. Um, I would say honestly, like maybe never build solar panels, maybe a couple. And if you are going to build them, you want to build them inside of your domes, just kind of taking up any spare space. And the reason is that even in the middle of a dust storm, solar panels that are inside of a dome will actually be able to function. Whereas outside of a dome, during a dust storm, all of your solar panels are completely useless. They're just consuming metal, which isn't very good. Whereas compared to your wind turbines are even more effective in dust storms, and they always work during your cold waves. And so wind turbines are just way, way, way better. So we're going to be setting everything up with wind turbines and trying to get a machine parts factory down right away. So machine parts factory, of course, is going to require metal. So how do you get metal? By setting up a mine. The mine, your fuel generator, your water extractors, all of your energy needs, all of these things are going to consume machine parts. And so I'll show you like which things that you should choose so that they consume machine parts. And then it comes down to simply just keeping everything running. You're generating electricity, you're generating metal, you're turning the metal into machine parts, which funds all of your infrastructure. And then the only thing is that eventually you'll need to purchase some electronics, right? And so I'll show you exactly how all this is going to work later on. But for your first rocket, fuel refinery, moisture vaporator. So I would say RC commanders are pretty important. The reason is that once you set up your first drone hub, you want it to completely surround as much of your infrastructure, all of your stuff as possible, right? You want it to affect as much as possible. So anything, it's like, imagine just like a giant circle, and you set up like all of your stuff within the circle. But let's say that there's a water over here that's just a little out of reach. You can set up a drone commander, and I'll show you kind of how to set up little like supply chains to keep them running. But you could have like a pipe leading out of your little base, and then there's like some water over here that you're straight extracting out of the ground, and the RC commander is what is keeping that running. So RC commanders, really good. They pretty much expand your base. And on top of that, they can roam around and kind of fix little things here and there. Very, very useful. RC transports, probably just as useful as the RC commander. They can pick up metals from all over the map, allowing you to relatively easily start getting like hundreds of metal. So pretty important. RC Safari, I haven't used this building yet, or this little contraption yet. So I think this is actually kind of new because I don't remember this from way back in the day. But either way, I might end up checking this out. Not sure if we'll do it with this new Mumbai playthrough, but either way, RC Explorer. This one's really important, but I mean, I would say it's the least important of these top 3 RCs here. RC Explorer pretty much allows you to start generating extra research points. On top of that, they reveal breakthroughs, which are special like research things, so they are pretty important. So I will probably end up getting one at least. It just depends. Well, no, 100% I'm gonna get one. But for this first rocket, we want one RC commander. In terms of polymers, we're gonna take 0, and the reason is because, like I said, we're gonna be running everything off machine parts and a little bit of electronics, so we don't really need any polymers. But we are going to need them to initially set up stuff, but after that we're not going to need any because we're not actually using polymers for upkeep. I'm pretty sure it's called upkeep. But either way, so we're not taking any polymers with us in the beginning. We will probably bring over like 25, something like that. Maybe on a supply rocket, maybe on a supply pod. And so what we're going to do in the beginning is take as many machine parts as we can, but that'll be last. So let's pick up 2 more orbital probes. I think that this is like kind of the best thing because it reveals 1 square for you automatically. And so what I like to do is kind of search around, with the probes, you can hover over the other squares and see if any of them have water. So what you're looking for is water and a metal deposit. And so you want to set up your first dome or set of domes. I'll show you how to actually make like kind of like a big city, which is I think the coolest thing in this game. So we're going to set up our first dome near a metal deposit, start mining the metal, and then like kind of far away, it just depends. Like we're willing to travel up to like 2 or 3 squares away. We want a water extractor and the concrete extractor. So we'll get into exactly all of this pretty soon. Okay, and so continuing on, we're going to want the RC transport. I'm down to only bring 5 electronics, and then let's bring as many drones as possible. Okay, I think this is how I want everything set up. So quick recap is fuel refinery, moisture evaporator, produces fuel. These 2 buildings. Pretty important early on. They'll be their own little closed system. RC commander for expanding your base, just helping out anytime you need drones to go do something. RC transport, picking up metal, very, very important early on. And so already we're using like half of our space on our first rocket there. And so then it comes down to, like, I would kind of jump over the drones for now. That's kind of like a secondary thought. What you should look at is which of these 3 resources you want to bring. Machine parts are really, really important. So let's go ahead and actually drop off 2 drones. You can go down to, I would say, even 4 as long as you're bringing an RC commander, because I think they have 4 of their own. But you don't want to have like no drones. So we will kind of sacrifice our drones here. They are, I would say, the least important, because if you take less of them, everything's going to be just a little bit slower, which can be detrimental, but I think it's a worthy trade-off to actually have like everything you need. So machine parts are really, really important. So we're going to bring as many as possible. Electronics 5 is good for your first launch, because the only thing that you're going to actually use them for is setting up sensor towers. Nothing that we're going to be doing requires electronics. Alternatively, if you were to bring a drone hub, then it would be advisable to bring a little bit more electronics, because these require electronics for upkeep. But we're not bringing a drone hub. We'll probably bring it on the second rocket that we're bringing across. So just a little bit of electronics for now. Each electronics equals 1 sensor tower. And so we'll probably only set up 1 unless we get the automated sensor towers, at which point we'll use probably all of our electronics just to set up a handful of sensor towers around. Orbital probes, just talked about it. It's good for kind of probing around and knowing whether or not a base is going to be viable. So that's pretty important. So we're going to bring 4 of those, and that's pretty much it. And then just fill up the rest with drones. And so this is kind of like how I set up almost all of them. There might be some slight changes depending on just like kind of what you're planning. You never want to bring metals or concrete. Reason being is that you can actually just get these off of the surface of Mars. Food, again, probably don't want to bring any, because I'll show you it's really important your first couple of sols when you actually get humans onto Mars. You want to focus almost, not entirely, but you want to definitely get food down. So you can only bring 12 people. So like a quarter of them should be for food production, a quarter of them for, you know, mining metal, a quarter of them for producing machine parts in a factory, and then the rest kind of on the rest of the buildings, like the hospital and stuff like that. So I think this is just about ready, so let's get into it. Here we are selecting our colony site. Oh yeah, that's really loud. So all of our threats are going to be maxed out, and that's good. And so what I'm going to do is search around for some place that has high amount of metal resources and a high amount of water. I'm willing to skimp out on the concrete a little bit down to roughly here, but I do want a lot of concrete as well. So I might skip over this part, just depending on whether or not I can get this relatively quickly. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely going to skip out over this part. Alrighty, so we ended up finding this colony site here. Now, I'm pretty sure you can actually choose these coordinates here. So 6 degrees north, 143 degrees east. And I'm pretty sure that'll give you like the exact same resource setup. And on top of that, even the same layout of the map itself. So let's get this started.
Welcome to Mars.
So, of course, day one. First, right off the bat, you want to pause the game. So let me change the audio settings real quick. I'm going to turn on the music and turn the master volume just down a bit. Okay, so I think that's decent. Hopefully. And so right off the bat, let's see what we have here. We have concrete, which I think is pretty standard. Like, you're always going to have concrete. My mouse will let me scroll. My mouse is getting way worse past couple of days. Either way, concrete, which is alright. We found an anomaly right away. Various anomalies will give you different things, right? So this one's nice because it's going to give us between roughly, I think, 1,000 to 1,500 research points. So you can imagine, like, just immediately discovering one of these early technologies. That would be pretty good, right? And so what I'm going to opt for is to go for low G high rise. And so I'll explain exactly why momentarily, but we are going to probably do an outsource, yeah. I mean, we have 5 billion left, so let's outsource. This will give us 5 days to get 1,000 research per day. And so these first, it's always going to be a bit random, your researches, your technologies that you can research. But the first ones are always going to cost roughly 1,000 research points, right? So we're going to go with low G high rise right off the bat. Well, as a matter of fact, like, what I like doing is getting all the first ones immediately, because, you know, like, one outsource will get you the first 5 technologies regardless of what they are. I think that's always a really solid decision. So let's actually get autonomous sensors first. I like to kind of move them around, like over here, depending on which ones I think are more important and which ones are less important. So let's get drone swarm, and we'll do that second because I might end up getting a drone hub relatively soon. This would be really good hydroscopic vaporators. Most populations, you want to produce all of your water with the vaporators. Even if you don't have the technology, you want to call them over from Earth with prefabs. And then you want, as a backup, you want a water supply, like straight extracted from the ground. Just in case your vaporators break, just something goes wrong, all of your water tanks explode, like something terrible happens, like if all else fails, the population can turn on the pipe that's pulling water straight out of the ground. So that's really important. And then we have systematic training. I'll pick that up last because it's probably going to be a while, at least 5 days. Probably be like 15 to 20 souls before we actually get people onto Mars here. So autonomous sensors, that's good. Then drone swarm, low G high rise. This is a really good early research that we got. We got kind of lucky here. Hydroscopic vaporators is going to give us just a lot of extra water, increases production by 50%, which means that 2 upgraded vaporators will equal 3 unupgraded ones, right? And so with 6, you'll be able to fund, that's like having 9, right? So with 6 of them, you can kind of supply any place with water. Then that'll leave your water supply to not really be consumed, and so I'll get into what I mean by that here in a minute. So now here's what I was talking about. We can hover over these to see kind of what they have. High chance of water. I feel like in craters there's usually a high chance of water. Maybe not, that might not be a crater, but here, high chance of water. Here, not really. But then here we have water. So there should be water near us. And so we're going to use our probes to try and find metal and try and find water. That's the only important things that we need to find right now. So metals, concrete, water, research, metals and water, that's what we're hoping for. So we didn't find either, so we just need to keep on going until we hopefully find those. We can kind of not be so lucky, but it would be really, really good if we could get both water and metals right away. So we find water. That's really, really, really good. So now we just need to find a metal deposit somewhere. High chance of metals. We didn't get the good metals, so that's 1, 2, 3 consumed already. And let's just do this one, I guess. No water. Okay, so we've gotten rather unlucky. So this means that I'm probably not going to set up my initial planning, but we are researching autonomous sensors first, so this gives me an idea. This is totally fine. So let's zoom on in here. We're going to land our rocket, and we're going to do just a little bit of initial setups. So what's important about your rocket is that it serves as a drone hub. As you can see, that big circle there means that any of your drones can, like, this is pretty much a drone hub. So you can kind of set up, you should set up your initial base within this area. Definitely most advisable. So when it comes down to it, this game is all about planning. Like every little thing about this game. The more you plan, the way better off you're going to be. So we have a lot of water here, which is really good. We got like over 30,000 units of water. 2 of these are low grade and then 1 is average. So I would kind of rather consume all of the low grade first and then eventually start consuming this average grade water. So in terms of planning, I might cut out a lot of the planning just because it's not like, I'll cut them out and then I will break down my thoughts as to why I was planning certain things. So let's see, this is very low grade, and then over here we have very high grade. The very high grade has a lot less. The very low has a decent amount. I would say a good amount is around 1,500 to 2,000 units. So these are going to get consumed relatively quickly. And so initial plan, we want to, and because we're playing as India, we have access to, quickly I'll show you in the research, we have access to low G engineering. Every time you play as India, you're going to have this. So the medium dome requires 16 polymer, right? And I believe the medium dome is also going to consume polymer to upkeep. And so I was talking about how we're not going to really be using polymer for anything, no batteries, no Stirling generators, but we will need some for the dome itself. Alternatively, what you could do is focus on building up. So I'll show you like real quick, just some cool setups that you can do. Oof. Let me zoom out here. Let me find, I believe it'll let me sort of place buildings around. Let's see. Yep. Okay. So it lets you place buildings. And so what I like to do is, here's a basic dome. What my plans always are is to build a dome to house everyone in, and then to surround it with domes for workplaces. And because of the symmetrical, what's it called? The symmetrical nature of like the building mechanics in this game, you can set up some really cool stuff. So let's start with a dome here, and then a basic dome here, and then microdome on over here, I believe, right about here, and then another microdome here. So this is a pretty decent little startup for if you're not playing as India. Something very similar to this. You can make it a bit more symmetrical. I don't think I got it spot on. But the thing is that you can fit a total of 1, 2, 3 housing units. So if we come over here, we can find living complexes. We can get a total of 3 of these in here, and then 1 in each of the outer domes. And then in here, we would want not really any job sites. We would want some job sites. We would want like the basic things like a nursery, 2 nurseries maybe, a playground, and then go through, build, not a space bar. It costs quite a bit, but something like a diner. We'd want a diner, an infirmary, of course, that only makes sense. You want an infirmary really in any dome where someone lives. So infirmary, 1 in here, and then 1 in each of the side domes over there. Security stations are really good. Not necessary, but really good. The biggest thing is that they're going to decrease the sanity like losses. So every time something, specifically from disasters, right? But every time that, or well, really, to me, I think that your colonists can deal with 1 sanity issue at a time, right? So working outside of the dome counts as a sanity issue. So there's that. Working a heavy workload, sanity issue. Working at nighttime, sanity issue. And then anytime there's a, what's it called, going on, a disaster, so a storm, meteor shower, stuff like that, the cold waves, that's also a sanity issue. And then there's working outside the dome. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but so they can deal with one, right? So if everything's going perfectly fine, then I'll have people outside the dome. They'll only work during the day. They won't work a heavy workload. People that work inside of a dome, they can work at nighttime, and during the day they can work heavy workloads. And then that's pretty much all I can think of for the workstations. But then during storms, during like disasters, you want to get rid of anything that is additional like sanity loss. So people working outside the dome, ideally you'd want them to quit working until the storm passes. Might not always be an option, so you might need to actually have them work outside, but this is going to start giving some sanity penalties and people might start panicking and freaking out. During a storm, you wouldn't want people working at night inside of domes. So you can imagine someone working outside the dome during night, during a heavy workload, and there's like a storm going on. They're gonna break after like 2 souls. So you want to limit the amount of sanity penalties that your population is dealing with. So that's a very basic dome setup there, right? And so because we're playing as India, and eventually you're going to want to do this anyways, we're going to check out a medium dome. So medium domes are really nice. In total, you can fit a total of, I believe, 6 living complexes in here. And so because we got rather lucky and we have in the engineering slot our first one here, low G high rise, this is why we're trying to focus it, is because low G high rise gives us something that has a lot more living space. I believe 24 people can live inside of an apartment complex. So 24 times 6, there's a lot of room for people to live here. So to complement this, the apartment complex is going to have a low comfort score. So what we want to do is build a hanging gardens. Hanging gardens can't be built inside of the microdomes, but the medium domes, basic domes, as well as the trigon dome, I believe trigon dome, might not be true, but I'm fairly certain that this can fit their very own spire, hanging garden spire. So surrounding this, you can do kind of the same setup as the previous building that I was showing you, which is to try and make this one a bit more symmetrical. We could fit in these trigon domes like this. You need to go through and flatten the terrain around, you know, just have your drones do this in the background. Always a good idea. So we can fit in, just like the last one, 3 trigon domes, or we could fit in a total of 6 microdomes. Both are pretty valid decisions. Going with the trigon domes, this allows you to actually set up job sites within these as well as additional living space. So these are going to be very, very useful. Kind of the downside is they're going to consume a lot of electricity. So 3 domes times 20 power is 60 power, right? So you're going to need kind of a lot of electricity set up. Alternatively, 6 of these smaller domes is 30 power in total, right? Because each of them is going to require 5. So half as much power, but less space to work with. And so inside of your domes, you're going to want to build passages to all of the outside domes. So it'll be pretty much just like a giant city. Later on in the series, you actually see it fully come to life. But these are just some very basic ideas as to what I think is definitely going to be the most effective use. So I will do a bit of planning here for you guys, just to kind of show just a little bit. Whenever I get into planning the entire dome setup, we're going to want to find metal first off. But once I find metal and I start planning, we're not even going to work on the water yet. But once everything's kind of set up, then we'll be good to go. So let's check out what we're going to need for our domes. Medium domes are going to require 96 concrete, which is a lot. So 96 concrete, on top of that for each of the microdomes, 32 concrete. So we're going to need kind of a lot of concrete. So before, like, the most important thing is to start setting up these concrete extractors. So we will do a bit of planning for that. And so I'll show you just quickly how you kind of want to do this. So we'll set up one here, and we'll set up one here. Right, so we can click on them, we can see the area that they're going to be causing buildings and just stuff to actually require more maintenance. So as you can see here, and a nice little way to tell exactly how far away it is to count out 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right there. This will reach outside of their zone that they're going to start ruining stuff, right? So let's go ahead and do the same thing. 4, 5. So there's that. Now we have kind of like the ideal area where we want to set up some electricity, some very basic electricity. And in the meantime, what we can also do is set up our fuel refineries as well as our moisture evaporator. Now, because we haven't really hit play too much, any area, like if you set this all up and you start setting up and you find out that you're in a cold zone, I would just restart. Cold zones are going to make everything way worse. They're going to require way more electricity, and it's going to make it almost completely unattainable to sustain a population in a cold zone. Just way too much upkeep. You're going to need a lot of people to move in very quickly. Everything's going to require more electricity. It's just going to be a total pain. So if we end up finding out that we are in a cold zone, I will restart this, and I probably keep everything the same as it is, like in terms of the recording, but I will restart and we'll start on a new map. So let's look around for metals. Ideally, potentially something kind of close. So metals can potentially be there. Metals can be here, 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 and we'll just scan these for now, right? So ideally, I would want to set up a sensor tower over here, but most ideally, we'd want one in every single sector that we discover. And we can set up a total of 5 with our 5 electronics. We're not going to want the rocket to land anywhere that is going to ruin stuff, but we want it to definitely cover like all of our plans. So here seems like a pretty good spot, but before we completely settle into that, I do want to kind of go through and get the rest of this planning set up. So we're bringing a lot of machine parts, which means that a lot of our electricity should come from wind turbines. Wind turbines are definitely going to be pretty decent here. So we're going to need the rocket to land before we can fully plan out the moisture evaporator and the fuel refinery. However, we can begin to set up our initial power. So ideally, you're going to want to set up just one large solar panel. So this is going to be the only solar panel that we're going with. You want to make sure it's outside of this zone. The only thing reaching into this zone is your power cords. The more planning you do, the way better off you're going to be. So then we're going to go with well, let's see. This is all planning here. So this is the low grade concrete deposit, right? I'm going to show you a pretty cool little tip, which is that you definitely want to get a concrete extractor fully running, right? Because the solar power plants or large solar panels, they only require metal. So as long as you get a little bit of metal, then you can set your first one of these up. So let's go ahead and fully decide to commit to this area here. And what we're going to do instead is depower all of this. So none of this is going to get set up yet. Let's go ahead and get rid of this one. And the thing is this is only active during the day, right? Because it's a solar panel. So we want the solar panel to quickly get constructed, and then right afterwards, you want in the first day to produce enough concrete. That's why we're going with the high grade first. You want enough concrete to get your wind turbine running, so that way the concrete extractor can continue running through the night. So that's why we are going to do sort of this setup here, and I get pretty anal about getting things symmetrical and stuff, right? Like they're facing opposite ways. You could, I don't know, it's just something that I like doing. Either way, we're going to want a total of 4 of these, right? 4 energy producers here. And so then what is this going to require? Another concrete extractor. I believe this is going to require one additional power supply. So let's go ahead and set up one more wind turbine. So this is our initial setup here. And then what we can do is go through and connect this to that. And so then what we'll way in the future do is hook these all this power up to our domes and then set everything up. You always want to, like, just everywhere. You want power switches connecting and disconnecting everything, right? So we're going to want a switch here and then a switch here. Reason being is that we'll be able to completely shut off all of this. You want power switches on everything, and you want pipe valves on all of your pipes. Reason being is, imagine if there was an electricity leak here and we didn't have this switch set up, and we had a switch set up to this, then we would have to shut off power to this entire thing so that we're not losing too much energy. Whereas if we did have a switch set up here, then we could specifically cut off this cable. We could also specifically cut off the concrete extractor if something terrible's happening. You could also just turn the concrete extractor off, but that potentially, you never know, it could potentially cause like some sort of huge problem. So there's that. So planning, switches and valves on everything, right? So we probably wouldn't need a switch disconnecting this power supply to the dome, but we do want one next to the dome, completely cutting off this entire area, just in case something absolutely horrendous ends up happening. So this is enough power for the concrete extractor, both concrete extractors, and it's also enough power for our moisture vaporators, as well as our fuel refineries. This is just enough. So what we're going to do is turn off this wind turbine, turn off this wind turbine, and this wind turbine. I won't do too much planning, and then we're going to want to put this on high priority. Same thing with this concrete extractor. So the drones are going to focus on building up the concrete extractor, building up this cable. All cables start with the highest priority. Then we'll build this large solar panel, and hopefully in the first day, these 3 components here will give us enough concrete to get this wind turbine running, at which point this will run all night. So that's just an easy way to get the most out of your first sol. So there is that. And so we're going to need to wait until we land the rocket to actually start setting up the fuel refinery and stuff. There you can see our payload. Lots of really good things coming with us, the RC commander. So let's say that instead of a rocket, we were using a drone commander right here. And let's say the dome was in this area. Then the drone commander would be able to, or the drone hub would be able to manage all of the stuff within this circle, right? But as we can see, this underground water supply here, if we pull back up the rocket, as you can see from this position, it's actually outside of it, right? So what you could do is, I'll show you how to use your, storage depots to kind of set up cool little ways to like move goods around. And so to keep, like, let's say it's way over here, you can kind of set up like a daisy chain of RC commanders to pick up and drop off goods to each other. I'll show you how to do that, but the RC commander would be what we're using to actually reach into this underground water. RC commanders pretty much extend your drone reach, which is really, really good. So we have one of those now. So let's go ahead and land our rocket. I think this is good enough. And we just want everything to be as squared away as possible. I don't really like how it's not symmetrical, but this is fine, I believe. Okay, so we're landing the rocket here. We got the research all ready. We're outsourcing every little thing that I can possibly do is underway. Oh yeah, we're gonna need one more thing, which is a sensor tower. So ideally, you would want to set up your sensor towers. So let's go ahead and put a sensor tower here. Let's actually turn these wind turbines on. And what I'm going to do is put them all on. If you hold control and click, then you can change the priority of all of them, right? So all the wind turbines are on the lowest, but we will set this one to higher priority. Same thing with this thing, we'll put it on low priority. So ideally, they kind of work through a certain way. We want them to focus on how I previously explained that you'd want it set up. So here we go, we're landing our first rocket. Everything's pretty well planned. I hate these things right here. They create ginormous like dust things and you can't build anything on here. They're really annoying. So if you ever see these, steer away from them. They're ugly and I hate them. So here we go, we have our RC Commander, and RC Commanders are pretty good, but we're not going to really be using it too much. We will send it roughly around here to help expedite all these processes. Let's go ahead and pick up our RC export and tell it to gather this metal. And then also we're going to want to set up our initial storages. So for now, just one universal depot. We're also going to want a depot for metals, and we're also going to want a depot for concrete. And ideally, well, I want one for machine parts as well, because your universal depots can only store a maximum of 30 units. So let's turn off concrete, metals, and machine parts. So now that's all set up. Let's hit play. This guy's going to be picking up metal for us, which is really good. So RC Commander is going to be helping out putting things together. The drones will come over here and pick up this metal, which is nice. And so now we just need some time. I'm going to put this in ×3 speed and watch things come together. And as you can see, they are moving right away to start putting things together. Now then, metal deposit. What I want to do is actually get the RC transport, and the second he's got enough metal, just a little bit more. Oh, it looks like they're actually, nope, they're going to get it all done. One more piece of metal. This power cable's done. And boom, just like that, we have our first concrete extractor fully set up. And it's not contaminating anything except for the power cable that it needs. So power planning goes a long way in this game. So something else pretty cool is that you can use your transport routes. So I'll show you how to do that after it's done picking up all this metal. What you would want to do is click right about here and then have it pick up metal from this area. Oh no. And then deliver it to your depot area. And so it's kind of a pain to like remember to always be like clicking around. And so what you can do is just set up transport routes and they'll pick up everything nearby. Like imagine picking up all this metal. 58, 25, so like 100 metal here. Just 100 metal, and you wouldn't have to really put too much thought into it. So that's all pretty good. And now we're producing the concrete that we need to set up our wind turbine. Very, very good. Something that I totally spaced is that we should actually send, oh, we have 3 rockets playing as India. So we can do a second cargo rocket. Second cargo rocket? Is that what it's called? Cargo rocket. It just sounds weird. We're going to want a drone hub, right? At least one. That's fine. We would probably want to bring the machine parts factory as well. Yeah, let's go ahead and pick it up now. Unless I need this space, then we can just have this delivered via a supply shuttle, whatever they're called, the little ones that cost $100,000 or $100 million. So we're going to want to get an RC Explorer as well. And that's kind of looking pretty good, honestly. Let's go and pick up just a couple more machine parts. Let's go all the way up to a little over 30 is fine. Let's go and pick up all the polymer that we're going to need now. We'll go and pick up 25 units is probably, we'll go with 30, just so we can have a little bit of upkeep time as well. So there's all the machine parts, all the prefab buildings that I can imagine that we'll need. Let's pick up some more drones as well. I like this. This is, we're doing pretty good, budgeting everything rather well. So let's pick up 2 more units of machine parts, and I think this is going to be this rocket. We're getting another drone hub, we have the fuel refinery, moisture evaporator already, and then the machine parts factory, which we want to set up right away. But before that, we need to find a metal deposit. So there's all of that. That's the prefabs. And now, once we have the RC Explorer, we'll have one of each of these basic RC remote controlled vehicles here, RC vehicles. So we'll have one of each of them, and they can start doing work, helping out. Ideally, you want as many drones as possible, but I'd say it's the thing that you can skip over the most. So we're picking up 3 here, that's okay. There's enough polymer for hopefully all of our domes and some of the initial buildings like the playground and stuff, machine parts, just to keep things going for a bit longer. So let's go and launch that. So that's very good. Very, very good. So we're down to $2.1 billion left. Hopefully they can get this completely finished. Let's see. Store concrete 1.4. Yeah, they should have just enough to have that completely set up. And ideally they would focus on this wind turbine first. So now it just comes down to finding metal. That's all we need to do. let's go into times 3 speed. Rocket's on its way, everything is tip top. Starting to collect up some metal. And with this game, you're going to want to play on the slowest speeds possible. I'm not going to start excavating land quite yet. I would rather completely set up our initial ideas. Like if we find metal and it's next to something, then I'll go through and like flatten the whole area. But we'll wait just a little bit of time for that. And so now this should run all night. Let's put it on a higher priority. And there we go. We just need time now. Let's go in times 3 speed. And so even though it's nighttime and the solar panel turns off, this will continue to run throughout the night. Suggesting we build a drone hub. Not really necessary this early on. This guy's almost completely full. We'll wait until he's all the way done. And then we'll have him come drop off this metal. Oh no. So we need to do unload resources and then left click. So now what we can do, I'll show you how to use the transport route. We want it to
Research
highlight as
complete.
much as possible. So there's that, save metals, and then deliver it here. The vehicle's gonna drive to this little location. So even though there's metal he's passing, he'll drive here and then go there. Just a little tip. Autonomous sensors are done, so we don't even need anything for this. It didn't need to be connected to the supply grid actually. But let's go and see. So this one is in this area here. So ideally we want one here. So once this guy is done, actually as a matter of fact, let's go and unload. We'll finish the supply route later. Let's unload that. Let's go ahead and get some of this guy's drones, and then you can, like if you click on a drone, left click, then you can right click to the rocket. Because the rocket can't, like what we can do here is we can hit plus or minus drones.
Sector scan.
But the rocket can't do this, so that's definitely not great. Found more water, but we already have enough water. But now we have plenty of options for water here. Check the grade on it. High, that's good. That means it'll produce around, I believe, 4 water. Giving you an output of 4. Average is 3. Low is 2. Very low, I believe, is down all the way to 1. But either way, so this thing's unloaded. It's good. So let's pick up all of our electronics. And then what I want is only 1 drone, so we're going to keep on reassigning these. And so the rockets don't actually have the options to plus and minus your drones here, pack them up and reassign them and stuff. So you can't really choose that option, but what you can do is just click on individual drones and right click on the rocket and it will fully go through. So that's really good. The Martian Trail, let's see what this is. Earth HQ has just approved a new project to expand our Martian operations. The endless stream of scientific data flowing in from the red planet is too much to be handled even by the largest scientific organization alone. The top brass of our sponsor have just made the decision to sell the scientific data to third parties by setting up remote transmission facilities on Mars. Effect. You've discovered the new special project, Contract Exploration Access. It can be completed multiple times to gain funding. Oh, okay. So if we have enough research, we can research. I thought at least. I'm not sure where that option is for us. It's probably something else. Oh, it's a new project? Oh, okay, so I'm not sure if you knew this, but if you hit P on keyboard at least, mouse and keyboard, then you can check around the world and you'll find that eventually you're going to get these special things, right? These things usually require a rocket. And so right here, what we would need is 100 extra fuel. So on top of the 30 or 50 or whatever it is for your rocket. But on top of that, we're going to need 30 polymer, which is going to either need to be imported, right? And so we can make all the fuel. So if we can import 30 polymer for less than 750 million, then this could potentially be a pretty good way to make some money early on. There's all sorts of like little things like this. Alternatively, once we get a polymer factory completely running, then we can just sort of do this forever for free, which is really good. So there's that. And if you hit P, you start to get all sorts of different things that you're using your rockets for besides just flying to and from Earth. On top of all of that, on the 10th day, you're going to get something that is always there, which is to launch the SETI rocket, S-E-T-I, SETI, I think that's how you pronounce it. Let's go through, turn on all of this stuff. We want 2 concrete extractors, most ideally, just so you're producing plenty of concrete for the initial setup of your domes. So we're picking up all of our electronics here. Let's take our RC commander's, his spacebar, pause it up. So we have a, what's it called here? As we can see, right where my mouse is, I'll try and zoom in right there. It was right around here. This sensor tower is actually in this square here. So we need a sensor tower here. But first I want to set one up over here. So just below and to the right of this underground rare metal deposit. So let's go ahead and drive this guy on over here, as well as our RC commander. Very neat. And let's go into ×3 speed. He's going to need to pack up his little drone. He's only got one with him because we reassigned all of them. And then this guy, we're going to go into ×1 speed. And we're going to hit unpack. So we can hit unpack. And I believe it's right click here. Left click. I want to load resources, unload resources. Yep. So I'm going to drop off 1 single unit. There we go. And now all we got to do is, with autonomous sensors, that's the reason I'm doing this. Without autonomous sensors, I wouldn't bother setting up any sensor towers ever. It's just going to be too expensive. Oh, and it needs a whole entire metal. So let's go over here and pick up just 1 metal. Oh, he's actually going to do it for us. So what we can do instead is go to the next area and drop off 1. Let's go in ×3 speed here. Now we have 2 concrete extractors extracting concrete. Makes sense. And we're starting to gather quite a bit. So let's see how much we're producing per day. 28 per soul, roughly, and another 12. Equaling roughly, what is that, 40 concrete a day? So in like 5 days, we could start setting up our first domes, which is pretty ideal. Let's go into ×3 speed here. And boom, just like that, he sets up his first sensor tower. So let's go ahead, hit this, hit that. Oops, I should do this in ×1 speed just so I can be in control. Boom, there's 1 electronic. Let's go ahead and cruise on over here. Now this is going to need 1 piece of metal, so let's go and pick up just a handful of metal over here. Actually, let's pick it up straight up on the base. It'll be faster this way. 1, 2, 3, I believe is what we're going to need, because we have 3 electronics that need it. There's 1, 2, 3. Let's cruise on over here. Let's hit this. Metals. And, oh no. That, there, metals. This, that, and cable connection. So there we go. We have another rocket ready to land. I will drop it momentarily, but I want to give just a moment. Pick up the metal from here. I didn't notice a deposit around here. Maybe he was just driving off too. Kind of chill for a minute. Deliver 1 metal. And so there we go. Another sensor tower set up. So, just like the previous rocket, we have a lot of room for additional space for our drones to be operating, which is really good. But we don't really have anything, all we need is the metal. These are the bane of my existence, these stupid tornadoes. They're the worst. Like, they're worse than any other disaster in the entire game. I was kind of questioning whether or not I should leave them off, but it's fine. Okay, major oof on my part. We're almost through soul number 2, and I never set up our good old, what's it called? Our fuel refinery. So, not the greatest, but let's go ahead and set it up now. It's never too late. So, I like setting it up. We definitely want it kind of away from our extractors, right? And I like setting it up something like this. We can do production and have it face head on, just like this. They'll connect up to each other. Then all you need is life support pipes, single pipe here. It's one space away, so what we can do is set up a power cable here. And like I said, you're always going to be doing switches, so we'll set up 2 switches there, and this will become a switch as well, meaning that we can isolate these power producers from everything that's drawing power. And then let's say it goes out north like this, or straight up from here. If the dome was over here, then that means that we could sap all of this power and deliver it directly to our domes, which is what you definitely want to be doing. So we're like setting up infrastructure and stuff to be using, and then we're also making it to where we can specifically funnel it into whatever we want. So that's very, very ideal. Let's go into times 2 speed here. Drone swarm is finished, but we're gonna want the metal. Still haven't found metal. 100% want the metal, and this is fine to set up kind of like this setup here, how we have lots of concrete. We're collecting metal in this area. There's actually fuel being produced here. This little zone, we can eventually connect it up almost. Whoa. Boom, right in the same crater. Man, lots of asteroids coming in. Oh, let's go ahead and land our second rocket, as a matter of fact. I mean, I hate landing it right next to this other one, but it kind of seems like just because we don't know where everything is, we're just gonna have to move through and do this. I would really like to know where metal was before we made it all the way here. So now, bam, just like that, we're producing fuel. Close off little system. Let's go through, power switch that, and everything is tip top. Power switches don't require upkeep, and they cost a little bit of metal, so always a good thing. And once this rocket lands, we can start exploring these anomalies. I'm gonna save these ones with the research points here. Reason being is that once I find a technology that I really want to get done quickly, let's say I want a transport optimization done here, what I could do is click on it, move it to the top, and then finish that anomaly, and it'll instantly be finished, right? But for now, we're gonna leave that until we find something really good. Probes are cheaper and can deep scan. That's decent, nothing too great. But we will use our RC Explorer to check out these other anomalies, not the one with the science flask. Just need to find metal. So we have one here, a sensor tower here, we have one here, we have one here. Let's go ahead and set one up right in between everything. So what we can do is tell it to unload. Tell it to unload electronics. Send our RC commander over. The other drones can actually handle this, but I'm going to send it over anyways. RC Explorer, let's have it scan that one, and we can shift, click scan to have it queue up multiple things in a row. What you can also do, something, sometimes I hate the controls with this game, but something you can do is you can flatten this area, which will get rid of all these rocks and it'll make it nice and flat, just like if it was here. But the underground water will actually move up with it. So if you want to kind of clear things up around deposits, definitely a viable option. Make things nice and neat, help with your infrastructure. The more planning and the better your infrastructure is, the less maintenance it's all going to cost. So it's really important to try and focus on everything kind of all at once. We have our polymer here, but we're not using it for anything. That's why you don't want to set up batteries early on. And then what's nice about your wind turbines is that through every single, through the cold waves and through the dust storms, they're always going to be functioning. So that's why you always want them. Definitely ideal to set these up always. So even through the middle of the night, they're always going to be working. They just consume machine parts, which is why we actually brought with us a machine parts factory. So that's going to be the first building we set up. And then once we set that up and we have our metal mine, then the dome should be sustainable forever. That's the point we're trying to make it to. Well, besides bringing in a little bit of electronics every once in a while to keep the drone hub running, as well as there might be one other. Oh yeah, actually the machine parts factory itself requires 2 electronics well, 2 electronics for maintenance, right? And then of course your drone hub requires 1, so that's 3. And roughly everything breaks down in around, I would say, 5 days. So that's 3 every 5 days, which isn't too bad. We could just call over like 1 supply pod and it should have enough machine parts on it forever. So let's go ahead and set up yet another sensor tower. We can do this one right here. That's probably fine. With this, let's go ahead and pick up 1 electronics boom. And let's figure out where we want our last one to go. Oh no, my headset's dying. So we're exploring all of this over here. I guess we can just wait, honestly. So let's go ahead and actually unload this here. No, not load, but unload electronics. And let's go and continue. You don't want your RC vehicles to go into these dust storms. They're really annoying. And then all of your drones can be completely ruined with it too. Go pick up all this metal, continue doing that. There's that. Oh no, these dust storms better stay with. It's going times 3 speed. See which way they're moving. I don't think that even if they hit the sensor drone or the sensor towers, it would really ruin anything.
Achieved.
We discovered unusual crystals in the remains of a meteorite. The magnified images of their crystalline matrix were broadcast by every major news channel on Earth.
One tabloid even claims that the crystal is in fact artificially created, some kind of artwork of a microscopic alien race. The work resembles million tiny... Is that proper English? The work resembles million tiny cylinders surrounded by flames. A million. If you squint your eyes, the very static of the composition resembles a star map. The image is bordered by double rainbows, while the work has an abstract feeling and a very dynamic structure. While all this unscientific sensationalism has outraged our experts, the publicity provided us with some unexpected benefits. Cool, I want to believe. Okay, so we make an easy 400 million for simply scanning an anomaly. And we just want these to quickly get done, so just waiting for that. Oh, they're gonna ruin this. Oh, just before it ruined our concrete extractor. It actually might have.
Sector scanned.
The stupid storm disappeared. It looks like we're producing more power than, like way more power than we need. We're 19 over.
Research complete.
Low G high rise is done. Let's see what we've unlocked. Decommission protocol. I'll scan that one or get this one ready next. We're producing a little bit of research every sol, which isn't bad, even without the outsourcing. But by the end of Sol 5, I don't want to spend another whole $1 billion outsourcing some technology. We'll just wait to see what our options become later on. See how much metal this guy's collected. 18. He'll go until he has 30. New anomaly. Let's see what this one is.
The analysis tells us that we've found iridium-rich sulfides. That's a real rarity on Earth.
Iridium-rich sulfides. Well, I'm no chemist, but that sounds good. Mankind's ingenuity has found a myriad of applications for it, but we focused our plan on a much simpler, more vital role in growing our colony. RTGs. Free energy for everyone. RTG. Something generator, maybe? I'm not too sure. RTGs. Reduces the cost of physics text by 10%. Very good. So that's good. I think that lasts forever. And everything's going to be a little bit easier down the physics tree. Let's continue along. And let's actually get our RC Explorer that doesn't really have anything to do, so we'll just have him hang out next to this unless we find another anomaly. We have new sensor towers set up. Another concrete deposit over here. It wouldn't be worth it to land a rocket way over here just for that. And we actually have another drone hub, or we have our first drone hub. So as soon as we get like our initial ideas of what we should be doing set up, then we'll be in a really, really good spot.
Sector scanned.
Oh, here we go. There's the metal deposit, as you can see right there. So we're totally ready to begin our initial setup. So we're going to have to bring everything over here. Ooh, look at this. A vista improves the comfort of all residences in the radius of the dome. Now, when you're playing this game yourself, you're going to run into all sorts of things that are unlucky, all sorts of things that are lucky, and you want to try and maximize like the benefits that you're getting from certain things. So we have an underground rare metals, high grade, that's really good. We have an average grade underground metal deposit, which is vital. We need this. So we're going to want to set things up to be as efficient as possible. So first things first, in terms of my ideal way to do things, if you look at the building, you can see there's sort of like facing us most directly with those little arrows there. This is where people are actually going to walk up onto this platform and go down into the deposit. So we want this facing wherever our domes are going to be. And then you see there's the gray circle and a blue circle. The blue circle means that as long as that is hitting a deposit, we're good. So if we go all the way to right, see it says requires a deposit. If we move it over one to the left, too far from domes, but still. So now we can rotate it freely and everything is tip top. So let's actually have this face this direction. And then let's go with a rare metals extractor and have this one face. Let's kind of have it match up with this one here. I think that's going to be our best bet. And just like the other one, there is a little door here for where your colonists need to enter. If you watch my channel, I play a lot of Tropico 6, and Tropico 6, you actually need people into the buildings, but that's not how this game works. The day, or like the moment that their work shift starts, I believe, the buildings will start producing whatever goods they are intended to do. So now, we have this set up, right? Now, I want to do a medium dome right away, but in terms of the microdomes, I think this is probably going to be most ideal. So if you hold control, I'm not sure what the button is on console, but if you hold control, we can see that we can check out the like radius of what's going to be ruining the soil quality nearby. So we want to set this initial dome up right next to those as close as possible. Let's do that. And everything in this blue circle means that it can fully use things here. And something really cool is if we had another dome here, like let's go ahead and just set up our first medium dome. Want it to be symmetrical. I could move it this far away, but we'll have to see. When setting up a medium dome surrounded by microdomes, an easy way to tell what's up is to have them face each other, and it's just a gap of 1. So just like that, right? And now all we got to do is continue this pattern along. So a gap of 1. So we can see there's just a 1 gap here. And continue along with our microdomes. If we have this entire thing that I'm planning set up, then we can definitely reach the necessary 5 domes set up before Soul 100. And we could probably get it done probably around like Soul like 40, 50, somewhere in there. Okay, so this is my initial plan. So this is going to be kind of like a huge city. Now let's go ahead and put our medium dome in the middle. As symmetrical as possible. Boom, right there in the middle. So that is perfection. Now, max population is things somewhere between 200 and 300 people, depending on how many living complexes you build. So later on, I will show you a living complex that I sat around doing the math one day, like 2 days actually. I was just like multiplying numbers by the amount of buildings you can fit in them, kind of trying to prioritize how much exactly you can get out of these buildings, out of these domes. Once you make it to the biggest dome size and you use trigon domes to surround them, I think there might even be a bigger triangle dome. But once you make it to the biggest of domes and you set up something similar to this, you can have 1,600 people, even higher potentially. 1,600 people living in a city on Mars, which is really cool to do. So I've never set that up. As far as I made it is I made something similar to this, but I ended up kind of failing. It was just like the little things. And then all of a sudden everything collapsed. But with this series, there's a high chance that we are going to fail. Like this series can fail. But I do want to try and at least get the achievement, and we'll try and chug along for as long as possible. And ideally we will eventually set up a fully functional, fully survivable population up on Mars, which would be really cool. So now we can see what's really cool is if someone's living in a dome, they can only work in and use the facilities of one dome away. So you wouldn't want to only have your population living in these outer domes, because then they won't be able to use things like over here. It'll be a total headache to be reassigning people to different living situations. So ideally what I like to do is to only have people living in the center dome, and then you never need to worry about it. They'll use the facilities of all of the other buildings, they're going to use the workplaces of all the other domes, and you just never need to worry about it. Everyone live in the middle, they'll use everything outside. So what's kind of cool, pretty cool tip is this dome here has the 2 extractors that we are desperately going to need. And as we can see, these are like they're using a bigger space. So this is why planning is really, really important. So what we're going to do is move them actually. Production, metals extractor. Not sure what that was all about, but let's just move them out a bit. Because as we can see, this gray circle here is reaching into our dome, which is not what we want. Because that means that the dome would require more upkeep, and that would be really annoying. So this dome can use these ones, as well as probably these domes on the side. But the point is this dome can't quite reach them. But because people can work in one dome across, and this dome has access to these outside buildings, people can live here, go into this dome, and then work in the buildings that this dome can use. So that's pretty cool. So there's that. Let's go ahead and go through and pause literally every single building. Now all of this initial setup that I'm talking about, everything that I've been going over, like all the little things, like all the planning and stuff. So when it comes to this initial setup, everything that I've gone over so far, we are on a timer. Eventually we're going to run out of funds, and we need the funds to supply us with machine parts, right? So it's like a high risk, high reward. Like if we manage to make it past the initial setup, then we'll be fine almost forever. So we have 867 metal here. If we zoom out, our RC transport can pick up all the metal in these various sectors. So there's 18 metal here, 75 metal there, 47 metal here, 83 there, and then everything that we picked up thus far, which is a total of 38. Or 33, sorry. So that's all the metal that we have on this entire map, and we need to turn the metal into machine parts. So there's like lots and lots of stuff that we need to happen. So what we want to do is to start moving everything over here. Now let's see how far away these 2 rockets can reach. Not terribly far. So we're going to want to send our RC commanders somewhere. Hopefully in the middle we can connect things up. And then let's go ahead and set up our initial drone hub. Now then, the drone hub, I like to put them in the corners of these little setups, and as you can see, if it's in one corner, it can reach out way past, right? So if we set up here, this is why planning is so important. If we set up here, it looks like it can reach the 2 extractors over here. But on top of that, this extension, how it reaches way out over here, this will allow us to use like 1 or 2 RC commanders to completely reach into this area. As you can see, the RC, well, if the RC commander is moving, you can't see the service area, but point is that we can set up a universal depot right on the edge here, have it only accept machine parts and metal and concrete, and what'll happen is drones will pick up goods from our locations over here. They'll bring a little bit of machine parts and a little bit of metal, and you can decide on how much. What I like doing is setting it on 2. 2 is probably fine enough. So the drones from the main hub will deliver hopefully around 2 to a universal depot here. And then the drones from the RC commander will use the goods from here to keep everything running over here. So everything's coming together rather well. I definitely want to try and get this entire first episode done as quickly as possible. Not sure how viable that's going to be. It's probably going to be like an hour-and-a-half long video. This game just takes a lot of time, honestly. But it's well worth it, I think. It's a really, really fun game. So either way, let's decide on which domes that we're going to want to start with. Of course, we're going to start with our medium dome. So we're not going to unpause it quite yet. Just give it a little bit of time. And we're going to want to set up something that will move the concrete on over. Alternatively, what we can do is just have our RC transport do a transport route, pick up concrete from this area here. He'll go to the extractors, he'll pick it up from here, and he'll deliver all this concrete to wherever we want, which is going to be around here somewhere. So now, let's make one area sort of for depots. We have an anomaly here, so before we move on too much further, we want to check out this anomaly, because what if it's something detrimental, or what if it's something we don't want next to our population, or something we do? Like, there's all sorts of stuff that anomalies can do. And the ones with the eyeballs means it's something special. It's not going to give us the research points. It's not going to unlock breakthrough technologies. It's going to be something random. So let's go ahead and get our RC Explorer. Bring him on over. I call Darcy's hymns. I don't know why, but little dude's just roving around on Mars, helping out. RC Commander, let's go ahead and select a rocket. Got a couple of dudes here, so let's go ahead and reassign these to RC Commander. So now this rocket has no drones working for it, actually one. So it's got no drones working for it. This one's got 8. RC Commander's got like 4 or 5. So we got 13 in total, as we can see up here. That adds up. We're not going to want to mine out any of this concrete. We might as well forget about it, because we're going to build our drones over the top of this. You do need concrete forever, though. You're always going to need concrete. So you're going to want to eventually go as far away as you can to bring all the concrete here. Reason being, concrete is required for the upkeep of all your microdomes. Polymer is going to be what is used for our medium dome. So eventually we're going to need to set up a polymer production. So this setup here, this little closed system that produces its own fuel, you can get one more moisture vaporator and then set up your first polymer factory right next to it. So it'll be producing water for the fuel refinery. Fuel goes into the polymer factory and then producing another water for the polymer factory. And so we can create a whole closed system, and it won't even consume all of the fuel because it doesn't require 12. So what will happen is you'll be producing fuel and polymers from this one simple setup. It won't give you any extra water, but if we put like a pipe valve on this pipe and then pipe valves on everything, then what we can do eventually is set it up so that we can turn off these 2 pipes. No water will be going to fuel and polymer production, but we can siphon this fuel, send it or the water specifically to our dome if we really, really needed it way in the future. But that's a ways off. Let's focus on the immediate. We're also going to want a water setup, so let's go ahead and decide on possibly this low here. Now, I do like having as many underground water extractors as possible. What I'll eventually end up doing is turning them all off in the hopes that we can simply use moisture vaporators. They only require 2 metal, which is pretty good, but we want the entire dome to, like all of our domes, to be set up off of just moisture vaporators. And then let's say a dust storm happens and like all of our water tanks break or just something terrible happens, then we can turn on our water straight from a pipe. So kind of reminds me of that one game. I've never played it, but it's just out of range of this. Frostpunk, I think is what it's called. Like just the idea of like it being cold and we're drawing water straight out of the ground into a pipeline, delivering it to the population. Like just something about that reminds me of Frostpunk. I think that's what that game's called, at least. So let's continue along here. 38 machine parts. That's plenty. We're totally fine right now. We're going to need 16. Something is going on. I'm not sure what it is. It might be our sponsor. But everything requires a little bit less metal and resources, which is really good for us. So 16 polymer, I'll take it. Let's hope this isn't something that's going to kind of disrupt my plans here. Going times 3 speed. So now this is going to require its own electricity. It's going to require all sorts of things, but we can set this up as time goes on. So what we can do is go ahead and just set up its own little wind turbine here. I mean, right here is fine. Yeah, it's fine. Let's go ahead and do that. It's going to need 1 machine part and about 4 concrete. So let's find our transport. Let's have him go and drop off all of the metal. This building's not working. Of course it's not. Got no electricity. And then, oh, look at this. It's got its own drones. That's neat. So what they will do is... No, there's nothing for them to do. But they're done at least. So another cool thing is the medium dome. As you can see, the blue is what it can use, right? What it's affected by and stuff. And as we can see, it's actually affected by this vista, which is really good. Because what we're going to do is... all sorts of ideas, right? But you want to maximize every little possible thing. And so if we check out the apartments, they have a service quality of, I believe, 35, right? And so what we're going to do is build the hanging gardens to increase that by 30, bring it up to 65. But because we got really lucky and we have a vista roughly in the area that I wanted to set it up, that's going to push everyone's housing comfort up to 75, which is higher than like a lot of the base
Anomaly
buildings.
found.
Like the base living quarters and stuff, like everyone in this building is going to have a very high comfort. So that's going to be really, really nice. Let's check out this anomaly.
The odd composition of the debris collected from the anomaly site has proven to be an uncrackable riddle for our science team.
Uncrackable riddle. I like that. The experts all agree that the materials discovered at the anomaly site could not originate on Mars, but they are also in agreement that they are not the remains of a meteorite or a contaminant introduced from our rockets. For now, it looks like the origin of the debris will remain a mystery. As wise men throughout history said more than once, the more we know, the more we realize that we don't know. A genius applicant is available on Earth. Nice, okay, that's cool. So I'll get into like geniuses and celebrities and stuff later on. But this guy's done. Let's bring him back over here just in case we want to quickly research something. Check all of our research. Okay. Let's check the maintenance of water. The medium dome is going to require 2. And then the microdomes are each going to provide or need 0.5. So we have 6 of them, so that's a total of 3. And then 2 more from the medium dome is 5. So what does that come out to? 5, yeah. So we're going to need a total of 5 points of water, which is only 3 moisture vaporators once we research and get the upgrades for the moisture vaporators. Scopic. Once we get the upgrades for our vaporators, then we'll only need like, what is that? Yeah, 3, probably 4. So 4 moisture vaporators sitting out here. That'll be all the water we need, and as a backup, we'll have underground water extractors ready for us. So everything is still in pause. Everything's looking good. This guy, is he done? He is done. So let's go ahead and pick up the necessary stuff that we needed. I think only 1 machine part, so right? Should be only 1 machine part. Yep, 1 machine part, and then just a handful of concrete. Not you. You go about doing what you were doing. You. Machine parts. I only wanted to pick up 1. There's the 1. And
Sector
pick up
scanned.
concrete. New anomaly. Even more research points, that's good. So that's another little bonus that we can kind of hang out and wait for a good moment to research it. Now I tried doing a bit of testing in terms of how many wind turbines we're going to need. What I like doing is setting up symmetrical like ways to do this. So something like maybe like this, and then go through to the other side. Oops, that one's not in the right spot. Just imagine it is.
Research complete.
So something like this, you know, like every single dome has like a little bit of electricity straight up connected to it. They're not going to require wires, and everywhere's got a little bit, so just in case like a meteor lands and takes out some, like you still are producing some, and then you can cut off electricity too. Like over here we can turn off all this electricity and funnel this extra electricity straight into our dome, just things like that. The more planning, the better, always. Go ahead and delete these for now. We'll figure out exactly how much electricity we're going to need roughly. So this thing's got a bunch of stuff on it, so let's have him go drop this all off over here. Drop off, boom, all. So that should get everything up and running here. Then we just need the concrete polymers. We'll set up our machine parts factory inside of here. Machine parts factory is up and running. Machine parts factory requires 50 electricity. So it requires its own personal 10 wind turbines, which is a lot, right? So there's that. Medium dome's going to require 30. So we're up to, what is that? 10 plus another 30, 16. And then each of these is going to require 1. We have 6 of them. So that's 22 domes right off the bat. We're going to try and go with apartments, which require roughly around 3 wind turbines. And we're going to want as many as possible. But for now, we're going to only do 1, right? So that was, what, 22, 25. We're going to need 25. But of course, we're not going to set up all the domes right away. We're only going to try and get 1 completely finished. So for now, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 less. So we want a total of 20 wind turbines set up in the beginning. So hydroscopic whatevers are done. We can do low G fungi. So that's good. This is a really good building. This is an out of dome building, right? So let's go ahead and do that. And let's actually bring this to the top. And let's go ahead and consume our research here, our anomaly. Want that done quickly. And then we'll be able to set up the out of dome food producing buildings over here, outside of the domes. The more planning, the better. Always want to be planning. Times 3 speed, they should be able to get this done relatively quickly. So there is that. Now, let's go ahead and set up some initial storages. Don't want a universal depot. This one, we're going to make everything very specialized here. So as a matter of fact, what we can do is just do 2 concrete. Depot metals. So there's a metal depot. We should do polymers as well. And then we're also going to need machine parts. Get out of the way, sir. And so, like, most ideally you would be pausing the game between all of these decisions and stuff, but I kind of want to simply focus on just getting things done as quick as possible. Electronics, we want like one of everything, right? Depot, what else we got? We got polymers down, right? Yep, we got polymers, this, that, everything's done. Okay, so that's all the stuff we're going to need in the beginning. A quick tip is you're never going to need to build food depots unless you're way in the future. Reason being is that the food buildings can actually store everything you need. And I'll show you, I'll get into that later on. So what we can do is start bringing over all of the concrete that we're going to need. So bring over all the concrete to here, and then let's hit play on this, and I think I want to do this dome over here first. Reason being is that we can set up our machine parts factory here, and then it also has access to both of our extractors here. Now, we're not going to do the metal extractor for a while, rare metals. We need rare metals to produce electronics. So eventually this dome is going to have our machine parts factory as well as our electronics factory. And then potentially, realistically, I'll probably choose another dome to build off our polymer factory, kind of a little bit of ways, but that's in the future. Oh yeah, and so what we kind of want to do is actually go ahead and set up our first bit of infrastructure. Let's set up our first rocket landing area right here. So there's all of that. Let's go ahead and hit play. So hopefully soon we can actually start putting together everything and we'll be looking really good. Check out our research. As we can see, low G fungi here, roughly 23%, a quarter of the way through. And let's see how much longer this anomaly has. Once this anomaly is finished, we're almost a quarter of the way through, so let's see where we end up. It'll probably be mostly done.
Research complete.
And it completely finished. So now we have that completely done. Water reclamation has some pretty cool ideas about this spire, but that's like a way later thing. I have a cool idea
Sector scanned.
in a dome that can house a spire, I want to build nothing but farms in there because farms require a lot of water. Oh, and that's another thing. We're actually going to need extra, because we're going with the outdoor buildings, the fungal farms, we're going to need extra electricity for each of them. We're going to need extra oxygen and extra water. So, not the greatest, but definitely not bad. I'm actually going to go ahead and cut the recording for now and simply let my headset charge up. It's probably going to be a 2-hour video, but later on, every video passes, I'll try and make them only an hour long, and I'll streamline all of my decisions and stuff. So I'm back now, and let's go ahead and continue forward with all of our decisions. It'd probably be best to like scan all of the areas immediately next to our
Research complete.
dome. Systematic training, not necessary. Well, actually, yeah. So scientists and botanists. The big thing is botanists, right? We're definitely gonna want to bring a handful of botanists to fully staff our, well, not fully, but staff our fungal farms with enough people to produce enough food. And this is going to give us a plus 10 point bonus to the performance of the botanists. So that's really, really good. Mars crowdfunding, we get a free $1 billion. So what you can do is research this, go up one. It should hopefully finish in 1 soul, but if it doesn't, and you eventually run into this, like let's say somewhere over here, a bit down on the chain, then what you can do is you can outsource for the whole $1 billion, and in the first day you'll get all that money back. So Mars crowdfunding is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and do that. A free $1 billion isn't bad. Actually, yeah, we'll leave that as is. So here's everything that's going on right now. They're gonna start moving some concrete into our dome here, and then we're going to need metal afterwards, and then all of the polymers moved over. There's going to be no reason eventually for polymers to be here at all. All we'll need is 1 universal depot with 2 machine parts and 2 metal, and then everything else, all this needs to go. On top of that, our rockets are no longer going to be in this position here. We're definitely going to want to launch them and then never land any rockets around here again. Of course, we're going to start landing rockets here in the actually important position. And so something else cool that you can do is another storage depot, fuel depot. And I just like to do this simply because it's rather quite aesthetic. Start filling up the fuel right around here. You could also set up some rare metal depots right next to this if you planned on making a lot of money. Like if you were playing as the, I think it's blue something, the one where you're trying to, well, quickly I'll just show you. Hit this, go to achievements, and come scrolling down until we find it. Plays the Blue Sun Corporation produce $100 million, $100 billion funding before Soul 1. So if you're playing as these guys, so the train has passed, and let's go ahead and so what we're going to want to do is ideally, in a most ideal of situations, we're going to want to import a bunch of electronics. We're going to need them for this area here. So as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and get a resupply going. Supply pod. And let's just pick up as many electronics as possible. 25. As a matter of fact, we can honestly just go with 10 and then just pick up some more machine parts to keep things running for just a little bit longer. Let's go and launch that. We're not going to land it. We can just let it come all the way over here. We'll land it once our landing pad is completely set up. So this guy's going to be steadily bringing us plenty of concrete. It'll take a bit of time for it to eventually fully show up. But as a matter of fact, let's actually have him pick up the polymers first and bring them over. Probably be a bit better. And then we're going to need to focus on collecting all the metal in every sector that we've discovered so far. Also, let's go ahead and get a large dumping site. It really doesn't matter where this goes, but let's go ahead and do it here. Ideally, probably I'd want it over here, because eventually you can use waste rock. You can use it for filling in holes when you're flattening stuff. I believe later on you can eventually use it to actually produce stuff. I think concrete, you might even be able to produce something else out of waste rock. But for now, we'll just leave it like that. Alrighty, let's see how far this is reaching. So if I am in this area here, what we can do is hope that's in the right spot. And one over. So right there, right? Now then, let's get our drone commander. And what we can do is
Sector
send most
scan.
of these little dudes to here. Two's probably fine enough. And let's bring them on over to roughly probably here. 62 metal in this area here. Not great. We also have this research. Okay. Let's go in times 3 speed. Oops, it already is. Let's see, how much further along can he go? Not much further.
Research complete.
So that looks like it. So this is as far as he's going to be able to reach. So if we want this other concrete extractor running, which we do, then we're going to want another, in the very least, at least one more RC commander. So let's go ahead and bring another supply pod and RC commander. We can fit exactly one, so let's go ahead and launch that as well. That's all fine and dandy. And then eventually later on, once like this is gonna run out pretty quickly, this concrete deposit, we can just decommission all of this.
Electrostatic dust storm approaching.
We have 2 whole souls to wait for this, and ideally right after this storm passes is around the time that we're gonna want to actually bring humans. Hopefully we can get everything done slightly before then. So all of the polymer has been loaded here. The drone should be starting to deliver polymer here, and then we're going to want to set up our metal extractor. You want to do this as late as possible because the machine parts are a finite resource and the metal extractor is going to consume machine parts slowly over time, but still you want to get as much as you can out of with what little you have. Slowly loading up the rockets. It's going to take a bit of time. So in this deposit here, what we can do is turn off, no, we want metals and we want not concrete. Actually, yeah, let's take the concrete. No food, rare metals, no polymers, no electronics or fuel. And we'll set this to 2. So drones will deliver goods on over here. This guy, we can have him pick up. Let's have him pick up all of our machine parts and bring them here as well. And then after that, we'll have him pick up all the metal, and then finally every other last thing. I wonder if these spare electronics that we had are still sitting about somewhere. Doesn't look like it. That's okay. And so what's nice is this RC commander reaches nearly to this water deposit here, which is I think the one we're going to go with at least right now. Let's see how efficient we are. Let's go ahead and pretend to put some of these down. We don't want them too close to each other, but here seems okay. And then potentially this one maybe here. So they're not touching each other, but they do have water deposits. And if this RC commander, nope. So let's move it this way a little bit. This area still seems pretty good, and it is now, in fact, reaching these. So let's turn these off. We'll be able to turn them on later. They also consume machine parts for maintenance, so you want to be careful as you can. Now let's see. Oh, no. Stay where you are. Let's go ahead and see if this water extractor here can reach. It looks like it can. So just like that, we have this RC commander is helping to run all of these 4 buildings here, as well as moving resources over here for the next RC commander, which is going to be working on this concrete extractor. And then eventually this concrete extractor is going to be decommissioned. We might even decommission all this power here, as well as just all of this stuff, and move everything a bit closer, because we don't need it quite as far. And then the RC commanders potentially can go and help bring something else in, like maybe this concrete here. But as a matter of fact, yeah, this drone hub should be able to reach that concrete deposit, which we'll probably end up completely exploiting. However, this one is just too buried for us to really have to worry about it. This has all the concrete it needs. Now we just need the metal. Very good to see. Times 3 speed it up. Don't want to be too inefficient, but I think we're doing alright here. This rocket hopefully within the next sol can launch. There's a stupid dust storm coming in, but nothing that we're using should really run into issues besides the moisture vaporator, which means that we're not going to have access to fuel being produced for a bit. We have another metal deposit over here. This is really good, but honestly, we only really need one, because this one here, 800 plus the roughly, hopefully around 200 out in the like open deposits here, means that we have roughly around 1,000 metal at our disposal, and hopefully that will last long enough for us to find a deep underground metal deposit, which usually has, I'd say around 10 times as much, and so that will produce a much more long-term way to deal with it. And then something crazy is in your breakthroughs, there's something called, I think it's nano refinement. If you manage to find nano refinement, as long as you set everything up correctly, then you can create an infinitely sustainable population on Mars. Reason being is that once an extractor is completely used up its deposit, so let's say this was completely out of concrete, deposits will still be producing no matter what. This building can run literally forever, even though it'll only produce a very small amount of concrete. As long as you have nano refinement, it'll always produce, which means you can also get the upgrades for it. That means that all of the deposits that you have, like imagine if this metal deposit here always produced forever. Water deposits always produced forever. Everything's always producing forever, which means that at a certain point you'll have enough stuff, enough deposits being exploited, that even if they all run out, nano refinement will allow you to infinitely produce goods to keep everything running. So here's this one. What has this got? It's got our RC commander, so let's go ahead and land this here is probably fine. Times 3 speed it up. And touchdown. Very neat. So let's go ahead and break down this thing, and let's haul this guy on over here. So he's done with his job there. Let's go ahead and start picking up all of the metals and bringing them over. Let's go ahead and bring our RC Explorer on over here to hang out. And this guy doesn't quite need 4 whole drones to himself, so it's -2. 2 is probably enough to keep everything running. And then all of our spare drones we can start putting in our normal location. Let's go ahead and figure out which drones this guy is using. And for now we can honestly assign, I would say maybe 2 to here. Which means that he's got 4, and then the rest of them, all 6 of these other ones, let's go ahead and have them go to our drone hub. I believe we got lucky with drone swarm. Nice. So drone hubs can have up to, I believe, 80 drones under their command, which is really good. Just keep on going through and reselecting these guys, moving them on over. And just like that, this thing has 0 drones under its command. Actually, it's got 1. Let's find out where he is. He's here. So there we go. So now this drone commander here, RC commander, is potentially going to be able to run this whole operation by itself. Yes. And then this one is running this over here. And so somewhere in between, all we need to do is set up one final universal depot. Set this to concrete, no rare metal or foods, no polymer, no electronics or fuel. Oh yeah, this is what I was talking about. I hate these things, man, with a passion. Try and stay away from it so it's not too loud. But what is going to happen is people are going to bring concrete, metals on over here.
Active research. Research complete. Milestone achieved.
Ooh, hey, we finished our first dome. Very, very nice. Like I said, we're going to need a total of 20 wind turbines to start out, so I'm going to want to set that up relatively soon. Decommission protocol finished. No active research. What is this? Low G hydrosynthesis. This is going to give us access to the polymer factory, which is good, but we don't quite need this yet. So I'd rather get anything else that will be a bit more useful, like transfer optimization, done first. And just so we're not wasting technology, like our research points, as you can see, it randomly put 8% of like the research into adapted probes. And so you want to always keep something queued up, just so you're not, oh, this would be really good. Let's actually get that done first. Let's go ahead and, I want to outsource, but I mean, is it worth it? And we could do this one for 200 million, that's fine. So hopefully within the next couple souls we get that done. It's going to give us even more research. So that this building here is done. We just need the concrete. And so the way I think of like daisy chaining the universal depots together with your RC commanders is like a vacuum. Either we're going to create a large supply of something over here and the desired amount is all set to 0, which means that any place that is open, any open depots, the drones will carry goods. So it's like a positive pressure here and it's slowly pushing things out this way, and then a negative pressure over here because this universal depot, all of the resources brought here are going to be consumed by buildings here, which means that, what's it called, there's never going to be enough goods here. There's always going to be more that needs to be brought here for the desired amount. So negative pressure. Research complete, decommission protocol, stupid storm coming, transportation problems, and a dome without life support. Now, something really important is that another major reason as to why planning is so crucial is because you never want a single dome to ever go offline. You never want them to go offline. You never want them to not have enough water, not enough oxygen. You're going to want to plan ahead efficiently enough so that any problems, like right now, see how we have 23 hours for this dust storm to come in?
Sector
we would want to
scan.
make sure that we have enough oxygen for around 5 days. Ideally, you want 5 days worth of water and oxygen in tanks surrounding your little city here. And so you never want you never want to cause unnecessary strain on your population once they're actually here. In other words, things are going to get really messy really quick, and potentially the entire function can fail very quickly. So let's go ahead and go here, pick up concrete, start hauling the concrete over. So that means that he'll bring all the concrete over, and that will be all the concrete we need for the medium dome. And then we can go through. So as we can see here, we have 3 big triangles and a small triangle. Well, the thing about setting up cities like this that are all linked together is every single big triangle, or within these outer domes, we're going to need one big triangle to be used solely for passages. So as we can see, we can link this one. I like doing it all symmetrical, so like the inner one on a right triangle here, and then if we come over to this one, it'll be the same exact tile. Come over to this one, again, same tile, and same tile, same tile, same tile, same tile. And that'll create like a cool looking like spinning aesthetic. I like keeping the things aesthetically pleasing. On top of just looking good, usually that means that things are very streamlined, using as little as possible in terms of resources, which in turn is going to allow you to maintain them for the like the least amount of resources as possible. So that's always good, and it's definitely what you want to be doing. So I'm gonna give this a bit of time. Is this rocket done yet? It is done. Let's go ahead and launch it out of here. We don't need it no more. Don't know if that's proper English. Don't need it no more.
Milestone achieved.
But either way, this rocket is finally out of here. Times 3 speed, not much else that we're doing. We're just waiting for things to finally finish up. And so hopefully in the future we don't need to completely have our RC transport just sitting here picking up concrete. Probably definitely won't happen. The drone should be able to manage that. And then we can change like the shift settings, like we can turn them off during the day, just saving a little bit of electricity. Then we can link up this electricity to our base, allowing us to use this during the day because nothing over here will be using it. And ideally, As you can see, I set up these 2 concrete extractors, the fuel, the water, all the stuff's way over here, the spare electricity, and that's okay. It's going to require a bunch of metal to link it to our place, requiring maintenance of all that metal, all the pipes and all the cables. And so the single most effective way to do it would be if the drone hub actually had both of the concrete deposits within here, and then we set up the water and the fuel here, meaning that we wouldn't need the RC commanders to be spread out all the way this way. We wouldn't need to have maintenance on all the pipes and cables and stuff. So that's the most ideal way, but you have to get kind of lucky for that to happen, and today we had to kind of spread things out, but not to fret. It should be okay in the end. 43 metal, so it looks like we're losing a lot of metal very quickly, but the reason is because 40 went into this and another 24 into that, so 64 metal. So you can imagine is we were at 100 a little bit ago, and so we're still roughly around there. Yes, I think I am going to actually set this up how I was talking about. We're going to turn these off during the day, so you can just do that. Now we're going to turn them off during the day. And then we're going to bring this electricity in because we need a total of what? Like I said, 20, I believe. 20 energy producers, at least during the day. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Scan.
So during the day we'll have all of that. Some more metal. I don't really like building a singular basic dome out here. I mean, you definitely can, and because the dome's not linked to other domes, that means you can use all 6 of the triangles inside. Definitely a viable option. You could just set up a little town over here, a little mining town, and they mine metals and have all their own goods and stuff, and then maybe daisy chain over some food supplies so they don't need to make their own, things like that. But for now, we're just going to solely focus on setting up this township here. Township. A Martian township. So we still have 9 hours before the stupid dust storm. Shouldn't be too much of an issue though. I doubt we're going to run into any problems. Let's go ahead and go into ×3 speed here. Finishing up bringing all the concrete in. Almost done. 2 more loads worth of concrete, and that should be everything that we'll need. So as you can see, he moved to that location and then he moved over to the final spot. So just a little tip. You want to kind of choose this carefully, but at the same time you want to pay attention to nearby deposits and depots,
Resources are low.
because sometimes they will try and go over here and pick up things. Kind of annoying, but by and large you simply want to put the end position or the beginning position right next to the deposits or the depots. Okay, so we're going to need more concrete for this. We're also going to need a bit more concrete for the landing pad, so we're going to keep him running through until that's all done. And so what is cool is, as we can see here, there's 2 machine parts, 2 metal, and a concrete, right? So that's cool. So as you can see, people are bringing concrete from over here. Sometimes it's really dumb. Drones will literally haul goods back and forth between places, but not all the time. As you can see, these drones here, they're bringing concrete to this thing. And then other drones over here are picking up that concrete. So
Sector scan.
it's creating a chain of goods, something that you don't really need to sit here and monitor all the time. So let's go over here to this one. It's got a bunch of metals on it for some reason. Not sure why. Let's go ahead and destroy this universal depot. Don't need it no more. Go ahead and destroy the concrete depot, the metal depot, machine parts depot. We don't need any of this. And so now this is going to be something a little bit different. I'll show you something pretty cool. Let this guy drop off all of his concrete. And what we can do is set up another transport route and simply only select these goods here. Yeah, that should be alright. And we're going to select all and bring it here. So now what should happen is hopefully he avoids the waste rock. But he's going to drive all the way over here, right, to the little blue thing. Then he's going to come and pick up all this stuff. So everything here, the fuel, this spare electronic piece, this metal, all this concrete sitting around, he's going to bring all of this over to the main portion, the main part of our little area. And he won't stop until all of it's done. So there is that. Is it a dust storm right now? Yes, it is. I can hardly even tell. And so this is why wind turbines are so good during dust storms, is each turbine right now is worth 2 turbines. And then solar panels, they're just turned off. So there's all of that. They are starting to store this universal depot pretty full of concrete. So I think what I am going to do is decide to go like this. This might be a bit more efficient, is do it concrete depot. Right, hopefully this is within range. Yes, it is. But we're going to set this to a desired amount of 0, which means that we can turn off concrete here. And so now what'll happen is they will deliver it always to a depot, right? Like they're always going to try and aim for some depot. Now, what they're going to do is fill this one up, but this one doesn't want anything, but this is their only option to bring all of the concrete here. So then we can set up another concrete depot over here, potentially with just a little bit, and do like 10, and then eventually we'll have all the concrete brought over here so we can choose the maxed out amount for these ones. Right, so now what's happening is all the drones, their only option is to drop off the concrete here. Concrete doesn't want to stay here, so it's going to move to this one, which will try and have 10. Anything over 10 or around 10, it's going to want to start bringing everything over here, which our drones can actually reach from the drone hub. So planning, try and be as efficient as possible, and these two domes are actually
Sector scanned.
completely unfunctional. So let's go ahead and pause them. New sector scanned. This is a very big concrete deposit, so eventually could be pretty good to come and collect all of that. Now I could have used this anomaly to quickly get this research, and the Earth Mars initiative. The only reason I'm doing this is because it's giving us a free 100 research points per soul, and that's forever. So I probably should have used our anomaly to quickly get that, and then I wouldn't have spent the $200 million on trying to research this. So now we have this landing pad done. What is this here? Electronics and stuff. So let's go ahead and drop that off here. Drones will pick it up. This is turned off for some reason. I wonder why. Oh, this building was disabled by a lightning strike. It will resume after a couple of hours. Very, very terrible. So just like that, we have a bunch of spare machine parts and some spare electronics, but this is kind of all we have. We can do more supply runs, but kind of want to be a bit conservative with all of the resources that we have. As conservative as is reasonable. Okay, so now here's the setup, right? So I'm going to show you. This is going to be really, really cool. This is definitely something that I think is the coolest thing. So if you're going to copy this exact same setup, you can set it up however you want, all sorts of different options, but if you're going to copy what I'm doing, you want your apartments here, and what I like doing is having them face directly away from the center, and we can fit in 3 doing this. So there's those 3, and then you can fit in a total of 3 more kind of facing towards them, and I like to have this be as symmetrical as possible. So if we look here, this one's facing us head on, and its back is to the center, and the one to the left. So we come over here and look at this, exactly the same setup, and exactly the same setup. So this is enough living space for 24, 48 times 3. And then way later on, we will research smart housing, which allows us to build smaller houses, and so we can fit in 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, and push this up to, I believe, like somewhere around 180 people living here. In just this little place. And then additionally we can set up like maybe a couple of smaller like suburb-ish type things. Ideally you'd want those in like surface build or in domes that have service buildings, so something like the space bar. Just so that they're not like bored all the time, right? Because people living in this dome can't use the facilities of this dome because they're not directly linked. That's why you want most of the population living in the center one, because it is directly linked to all of them. So these are going to require concrete, and by these I mean the passages. So let's go ahead and set up our first one, and this is typically, no, I like this, so towards the center one there, right? So there we go. And as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and turn off all of these. Planning. So those are all turned off, but they will start putting this one together. It only requires 4 polymers. What is going on? It's supposed to require a lot more. I'm not sure why though. Is it because I chose India? It might be. Either way, we're getting a discount, which is really, really nice. So less polymers for more buildings, very good. Let's go through and start to decide on other certain things. First off, we need an infirmary in every single building where people live. That is almost completely unavoidable. You're going to need that. So let's go ahead and do that. We can also do a grocery. This is a building that's going to provide food without having people really have to worry about it too much. And then maybe potentially just one more small building. We're not going to have enough people for like all the buildings that we can imagine. So let's go ahead and quickly I want to talk about things. Art store, electronics store. Do not ever set these up until you have factories that produce electronics and polymers and they're producing a lot. Because these are going to consume a lot, but they provide a very high service comfort, especially the electronics store. Service comfort of 100. Very, very good building. Both of these are going to be very expensive. You're going to be running out of electronics and polymer constantly. So do not build these two. Amphitheater is nice because it gives social relaxation and luxury, which is like your luxury service is kind of rare to find. But it has a maintenance of polymer. So one polymer roughly every 5 days. So pretty good. 0.2. What is that? 0.2 polymer a day pretty much. So as long as you're producing more than 0.2 on top of your other things, then you'll be okay. Security stations, like I said, very good to have, but we're not going to build one early on. So we have the grocery, we have an infirmary, and let's go ahead and build just one last building, which will be a diner. So there we go. Population should be relatively happy with that. And we're also going to need a fungal farm. So if we hold control, we can see like what's being critically affected. And I want to, in the very least, set this up with more planning. So there's that. And this one here, we're going to want to definitely construct it. And it's going to need an import, so we can build a pipe right there. And then once that pipe's finished, we put a pipe valve on it. But ideally, this building never doesn't have water because that's just less food, and you need food. Okay, so everything's looking good, right? You're looking at our dome here. All this extra space, we're not going to do too much with it. And way in the future, actually, you know what? This is good. Good thing I noticed. Let's actually destroy the infirmary, the grocery, and the diner. And so let's just quickly, for the sake of simplicity, pretend that these nurseries are additional homes. Oof. As a matter of fact, we wouldn't even be able to place them like that. Let's go and demolish this one, right? Because the inner left one of all of the outside triangles, so this one, inner left triangle? No, this is going to be the right one. So I should go with the right one on all of these then. Sorry if this isn't making sense, but my point is this. We should connect it like that, right? So if we're looking from the perspective of an outside dome, one of the triangles, we go from this one here to this outer one here, right? So that means this one here to an outer one there. This one here to an outer one there, right? So what we can imagine is this triangle being filled up with that little slot. Now let's go through and try and place nurseries around this. So we can do a nursery the other way like that. So we're just pretending that these are the smart homes in the future. So we're not building nurseries. You only need like 1 or 2 anyways. And so that leaves us with one final triangle. So real quickly, I'll show you exactly what I mean. Imagine more smart homes in the future like that. And more smart homes in the future like that. And so eventually we're going to have as many as we can cram in here, right? But the thing is the front triangles here, we have one more slot open. These are going to be the final buildings, which we can fit in our diner like here. We can fit in an infirmary like here. And we can do a grocery here. So we're going to have just like the bare minimum stuff. And then eventually a triangle kind of off to the side. This one can be for like a casino and like all the other little things, right? This one can be for like a school and other little things. This one's going to be the factory one with all the different factories. We can have one set up for farms potentially, or just everything else. All the little things we're going to be putting out to the side. So now let's go through and get rid of these nurseries because we don't really need them. They're just there for an example. Sorry if that's loud and annoying. But there we go. So this is the final build that we're going with. This is going to be the initial setup. And so now that we're here, what we can do is open up our productions, and here's our nice big fancy machine parts factory. Let's go ahead and put that down, and let's go ahead and turn on the metal extractor. Okay, so now we are almost set up in a position where we can make a society here that can function and sustain itself. We're producing food, we'll have water, and then everything that's producing water and food, we can maintain it all. So things are going to get better. What really sucks is that this drone hub got struck by lightning. So hopefully, relatively soon, we can continue functioning. Several hours. I guess while we're waiting, we can set up a couple more plannings. Something I like doing is if we click on the dome here, we can see it's got these little slots here for pipes. So what I like doing is making it symmetrical and that's good. A leak detected, right? So let's go check on this leak. Oh, look at that. This building, we're losing a lot of electricity here. So way later in the future, whenever things are kind of getting rather strenuous, during dust storms, you run into a lot of leaks. And something crazy, something like, if you're not, whenever you have like a population, I advise playing on no higher than like ×2 speed. Because let's say we have enough water for a couple of days, and we're not producing water, something's going on, or oxygen. Let's say it's a dust storm, we can't produce oxygen. If there's a leak and you're leaking several days worth of oxygen every like hour, then your tanks are quickly going to completely empty, and then your population's going to have no oxygen, or you won't have enough oxygen to make it through the dust storm. So later on, that's why pipe valves and power switches are completely like the most necessary. Like, if you ever failed at this game, it might be because there was a leak and you didn't quite have your switches and valves set up. So this is a good example here. Not something really important, but what we can do is turn off this concrete extractor and then change this power switch. So now this leak, if we click on it, is leaking 0. This leak isn't doing anything. So we've isolated the issue. Later on, it'll be a lot more important to do so, but for now we're kind of chilling. How much more fuel does this thing need? How much fuel does this thing have in it? 1.2. Hopefully this building is actually reaching that. The rocket? I don't think it is. Okay, so now it is. So this is like the perfect spot for it to be chilling. What else is going on? RC command or RC transport still moving stuff around, so here's all of our goods eventually being slowly moved over. And now the drone should start putting together these things. So what we did was we set up our first little water tower. Let's go through and set the other ones up. Did I set this up in the wrong spot? No. No, I did not. Okay. So I like doing that, and then we can put a pipe here, and then also we can set up our first oxygen tank. Symmetry is oof. Okay, planning. Look, I made a major mistake. This right here is gonna get in the way. So let's go ahead and scrap that idea. Let's see if we can fit it in any other way. I mean, here could work, potentially. Not totally sure, but... Yeah, that should be just enough space to cruise on to here and then on over. Okay, let's go ahead and set those ones up. These ones up. How does it look? Pointing towards that door to the right. So pointing towards the door to the right. And of course we need a pipe here as well. And a pipe over here. pipe there, pipe this up, and one more final oxygen tank. Okay, so 3 water tanks, 3 oxygen tanks is way more than enough for any of the disasters that you're going to run into. But if things freeze, water tanks are going to turn off. So that's why it's rather important that we set up at least one of these water extractors out here. So let's go ahead and continue chugging along. Everything's functioning perfectly. Hopefully someone deals with this thing right here, this leak. And the moment that the leak's done, I'll show you what you do. Don't tell me he's picking up waste rock. Come on, man. Good enough. Let's go on over
Meteor
here.
shower
Oh, no.
incoming.
Okay. Go ahead and drop off. Let's see what he has. He's got some waste rock and concrete. So go drop off the concrete. I hope I did that right. Unload resources. Unload concrete. Okay. So we don't really need to worry about anything else for now. But now that the leak's finished, we can turn this back on and turn this back on. What is the issue here? It doesn't function during dust storms. Okay. Alrighty, so everything is tip-top. Bunch of spare goods here. No one's quite got around to finishing up. Let's go into ×3 speed. Watch buildings get put together. Planning. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to fit in any wind turbines kind of up against this. So let's build a small wind farm over here. Kind of is getting in the way of a concrete deposit. So what we can do is... I mean, we're not going to really be able to reach this anyways. But I mean, it would be actually probably pretty smart to set up a concrete extractor, ideally as absolutely far away as possible. So that's fine, and just deactivate it, right? So there's that. And so we can set up a bit of wind production out this way. So let's go over here and see. We're gonna need 20. This is providing 5 during the day. And we'll turn these on at nighttime as well, and they'll use this power. Just a little bit of fuel production, so as you can see, it's producing 12, right? But if we turn it off during the daytime, the 2 day shifts, and only have it on at night, of course, it only produces 1/3 as much. Not enough water, that's okay. Let's select a sector to scan. Let's just start going in a big circle. Don't need to scan down here yet, so maybe the next ones will be over there. Transportation problems, buildings not working, exploration, dust storm, low storage, meteor storm in a couple of days, and there's that. Okay. I am a strategy gamer who does not like having a lot of notifications up, so just something that I try to get out of my way. So now, oh look at this. This building is finished. So what we can do is deactivate it for now. It's going to require electronics. Roughly speaking, I would say, what is that, 2 divided by 5? Whatever that equals out to, that's how much you're going to need roughly per day. So not the greatest, and then on top of that, the drone hub, so that's 3 divided by 5. So what is that, 0.6? You need roughly 0.6 electronics a day, which means hour 10 would roughly make it somewhere in the range of 15 souls. So we're going to need more electronics eventually. And those are the only things that require electronics, right? So, and then on top of that, this thing's gonna hopefully provide us with enough machine parts for all of our upkeep. So let's go through, and we're gonna need, I'm gonna do, you don't want to overproduce. You don't want to make too many wind turbines, because that's going to drag down your machine parts production. So not great. So we're only going to be able to call in 12 people on the first rocket, right? So let's get rid of these shifts. So we have 3 shifts here during the daytime, right? Right in the morning. So let's go ahead and turn this on to a heavy workload, which means that all these people are going to be working a bit more, producing just a little bit more. And so this is a building for, as you can see here, best workers, engineers. So we want 3 engineers. Once this building's finished, we're going to want 3 botanists. Then we're going to want 3 people, maybe even just like 1 or 2 people that will go down into this mine. And we don't want this to be on a heavy workload because, like I was talking about earlier, sanity penalties, right? Heavy workload is already a sanity like debuff. So during the storm, we would want to turn that off because the storm itself is a sanity debuff as well. Working outside, sanity debuff. So no heavy workloads, no working at nighttime outside of the dome. But in the machine parts factory, we can have them work at nighttime. We just wouldn't want them on heavy workload because working at nighttime already is something that is affecting their sanity. So there's all of this. Things are looking pretty good. And let's go ahead and possibly set up. I'm going to wait as long as possible before we eventually set up our final few things. However, I do want to start setting up a long cable all the way out here. I think that the cables and the pipes kind of work the same, so show you a neat little trick. Not sure if this is actually, not sure if this is actually like decent, but if you were to make like a short pipe like this and then do the exact same thing, short pipe, short pipe, short pipe, short pipe, that's going to require a lot more metal than getting as much as you can out of it. So as you can see right on this square here, this tile, the pipe separates into another piece. And so each of these pieces, as we can see, there's two whole long pieces there, as long as possible. Each of these pieces is going to require 2. Whereas if we built it like that, and then we did that, a small little pipe system like that would also require 2. So you want to extend everything as much as possible to get the most out of it. So let's go ahead and, not that one, but here. Let's go out as far as that, as it will let us, right? So roughly around here, and let's go back down to the last little pipe separation. And we're just going to want to keep on going. So this water extractor is probably going to be the one that we're focusing on. So let's go around it, as a matter of fact. Switch this, and definitely want to always be always getting as much as you can out of every little thing. Too far from working drone commander. And just like that. As a matter of fact, we're going to want to deactivate this. Deactivate you. Deactivate you. And I would much rather have it connected to the actual moisture vaporator itself, right? Because that was only connected to the fuel refinery. Water would still make its way through, but this is directly connected to the moisture vaporator. So if this building like blows up from a meteor, then at least we'll still be able to get this moisture out. And so, just like I said, we're going to want to set up a pipe valve here. And probably a pipe valve. So right here, what we can do is connect this on up as much as we can out of these pipes here. We would want a pipe valve right here, right on this one, right? Because, and then even one here, because what if this thing blows up? What if there's a leak in this pipe? We can turn off this water extractor, and then we can turn off this pipe valve, which means that the leak would be not important. We wouldn't need to worry about it. Alternatively, if this place caused a leak or something blew up over here, something terrible happens, then we can turn off this pipe here. And then probably turn off the moisture vaporator too. Just so it's, well, I mean, this thing doesn't really matter. If this thing has a leak, or if there's a leak in this pipe, and we don't turn off the water extractor, this deposit is just going to be leaking water. And this is all of the water that we have, right? Besides the moisture vaporators, which aren't always going to be an option. We want these underground water deposits to last pretty much as long as possible. So way in the future, something cool that I've always planned is to build like a bunch of water towers, like just in a huge square right around a RC commander so it can watch all of them and keep them all maintained. But the major point was that I wanted to get like all the water from across the entire map. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it, but it would be cool. And deliver it all to like one central location, and then way in the future we can just turn them off. And all of the water from the entire map would be like in one location. I always thought that would be cool, but and then we wouldn't need to maintain it with machine parts, just a little bit of metal. Either way, so let's continue forth with what we're doing. So following this same guideline, what I want to do is set up power cables in the exact same orientation. So See how it doesn't quite reach that one there? Let's go back to this one. Just guaranteeing that we're getting as much as possible out of these. Switch this around and come to here. Come down this way, come over to this one. Build on over here. And then finally to here. Oh, actually, you know what? What we're gonna do is scrap these ones. Oh no, I didn't mean to scrap that. Scrap these ones. And instead, let's connect straight to this area here. Okay, so planning. As we can see, I almost built these pipes and cables within this area. If they were in the area and I didn't end up like noticing, then the pipes here would just always require more metal, which wouldn't be great. However, we're rather lucky in that we didn't have to worry about that. Continuing forth, not pipe valve, but pipes. Reconnect this. Okay, this is pretty fine and dandy. We're gonna want to switch here. Switch here. Right? Can I click on this? In this location here, right there. So let's go ahead and turn it on now, or get it ready. Power switch. Reason being is that we can turn off power this way, and we can turn off power that way, and we can turn off power this way, meaning that all of these wind turbines are going to directly come down here and provide power to our base. And then of course we're going to want another power switch here, just in case there's a leak along this huge long thing. We can just turn off all the power there and isolate the leak. Isolating leaks, that's like the name of the game for this. You always want to be prepared, be able to isolate leaks. Other words, you could lose a lot of really important stuff very quickly. If you're playing on ×3 speed and a leak pops up and you don't pay attention to it for like 30 seconds, your population has no oxygen. Your buildings are all out of power and people are going to start panicking and dying. So definitely want to plan as much as possible and play as slow as possible. An underground rare metal deposit, very high quality, right next to a concrete deposit. I've never seen two deposits get so close to each other. Not something I'm going to worry about. Metal here. Okay, what is going on with our transport guy? He's got a bunch of waste rocks. Let's go ahead and set up, I guess, honestly, a dumping station, not station, but just like a dumping area. Maybe right here is fine. Do two of them like this. Alrighty, so we did that, and what we can do is set up another transport route just for now, and let's go ahead and have them pick up waste rocks and start bringing it all the way over here. Oof, lightning bolt. Lightning bolt. Oh man, you know what I realized is that all of this setup here is going to require us to actually construct this microdome as well. The microdomes aren't really that much of an issue constructing them, because all they need to maintain is a little bit of concrete every once in a while. So that's pretty neat, or pretty nice for us. And as a matter of fact, oh, 10th Sol, there's the SETI satellite I was talking about. As a matter of fact, I want you to actually just go unload your resources here. Let's go into ×3 speed. And I want them to start collecting all the metals from all over the map. So let's go ahead, click on him, do this, go here, metals, bring them here. We're gonna want to start collecting all of that because we're getting pretty low in metals. As we can see, the whole pipe system's getting put together, and because we have these universal depots set up to collect just a little bit of metal, that's allowing us to stretch this pipe all the way along and maintain it. So that's really nice. Very, very neat. A leak detected, so pause and see, because we're on ×3 speed, we could have lost a lot of electricity very, very quickly. Doesn't really matter right now. Just going to ×3 speed. What we can do is turn off the switch to maintain some power. We're not going to have this concrete extractor up and running for a bit, but that's okay. It's not like it's going to be up and running anyways. So what we can do is we should put a dumping station right here, because it reaches this, which means that concrete from this place and this place, or not concrete, but the waste rock from these two buildings will be sent here. So let's go ahead and destroy this one. So all of it's going to come here, and we want this on a desired amount of 0, right? And then wherever this guy is, let's go ahead and actually destroy these two. This is a bit of an issue. We're kind of stretched as thin as possible here. And we kind of can't quite set up an area where they can deliver waste rock. But I think we can if we do a small depot right here. I think that's just enough. Hopefully it reaches the center one here, so let's just hope it's enough. And let's bring the desired amount up to 10. And then just like before, we can set up a location perhaps somewhere around, like just kind of out of the way over here. Hopefully that's not in the way, and we can set these two to a desired amount of a maxed out amount. So the drones will deliver waste rock to this one, but this one wants more, and then these two want even more, so it'll slowly funnel its way down to here. Okay. So now we have this all set up, right? And so now this is a time to test out, make sure that my planning is actually functional. We can go to domes, choose a passage inside to this one. Boom, look at that, just squeezes by with just enough space. Okay. Of course you don't need to follow exactly what I'm doing. You could have set the like all the water supply out here, put a fungal farm like in here. It doesn't really matter. I like keeping things symmetrical, keeping them neat. It just helps you like maintain like memory of where things are. Everything's like really neat, so things just function a little bit better. But potentially your planning could be even better than mine. Like, I'm not the greatest of planners, but I do like setting it up to be as efficient as I can manage. So once all the buildings are set up, then we'll be ready to have humans move in. Then all we'll need is at least one of these set up. So let's go ahead and actually turn this on now. He's got half of our remaining metal, so we're getting kind of low on metal. This building is finished. Let's go ahead and turn it off so it doesn't require any maintenance until we're ready to have people move in. Sorry if you ever hear like a pop. It's my wrist. I messed it up like a long time ago at the skate park, and sometimes it just feels arthritic and I need to pop it. But either way, so something kind of nice is you don't need to set up pipes between your domes. You also don't need to set up power cables. All you need is these passages, and the passages provide electricity, water, and oxygen across the medium here, and they don't require any maintenance. So passages are definitely a really good option. So as we can see, creating a pretty cool looking pattern here. And as time goes on, things get built up a little bit more, keeping everything confined to this drone hub's space here. Things are going to look really, really, really neat soon. We just want to make sure that this building and the drone hub can effectively reach all the pipes and stuff, which I think just barely. We're going to want this to get put together, and that'll be our water consumption. Now let's go through and start setting up a bit of piping and whatnot. So we can do one here, and then we want one right there. And likewise, we're going to want to set up our power buttons. You don't want to forget them, because something kind of annoying is like you can't build, like right now there's a wire under this like schematic for the pipe valve here, but we can't go through right now. It's kind of annoying. We can't put a power switch on this. Something's blocking it, but once this pipe valve's finished, then we can. That's an easy way to forget things, which is kind of annoying, but we'll be okay. This guy is delivering some metal, and it looks like he's all done, so let's go and find more metal deposits. Here looks like a pretty good spot. Pick up metal and deliver it here. And so what's nice about like this whole setup, everything we got going on, so we can just bring goods here, and because we've efficiently set this up with our C commanders, then we can bring all the metal here, and it will find its way distributed out here. We can have all of our goods delivered straight to this landing pad, and likewise all of the machine parts will find their way out here. Very, very, very good. Very efficient and Pretty convenient. 1 times 3 speed. Dust storm's almost over with, which means that we'll be able to hopefully set up a bit more maintenance with things. As a matter of fact, we're getting pretty close to the time where humans should be moving in. Let's go ahead and give it a little bit of time. Well, as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and start constructing up wind turbines now. So I think what I want to do is something like this. So that way they're completely connected, right? And then one right here in the middle. No working drone commander. That's pain. So let's go ahead and turn these ones off. Very important to maintain your planning. So we can do the power supply out this direction instead. So I like the idea of how I was doing that. So one here, one in the middle, and then potentially... No. And we turn these ones around and do 2 like that. 2 here and 1 here. Let's go ahead and count that up. That is a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 there. 8 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're up to 13. So let's go ahead and do the exact same thing out this direction. $16 plus the 5 over there comes to 21, and that should be just enough. And we will build up whatever else we need as time goes on, but this should be enough for now. And what's really annoying is the fact that I just realized that these are actually going to need to be connected via these domes. So I think I am going to try and construct them. It's just going to take a bit more time because this little dude over here needs to pick up all this metal. Let's go ahead and hit play on both of these. Like I said, they only take concrete to maintain, so it's not that big of an issue. Things are starting to come together. Slowly getting there. No life support. Your refinery is no longer working. Simply because we don't have machine parts over here to maintain it. Bunch of spare concrete sitting around. New anomalies. Oh, yep. See, once you get the SETI rocket mission, which is this one right here, you get this one on Sol 10 every single time. So it's going to require a bunch of stuff, a bunch of electronics. But if you have the metal and you have enough fuel production, then you can buy some electronics. And it's definitely going to be less than $2 billion. So you can buy the 30 electronics, have it land at your launch pad or next to your launch pad, wherever. And the drones will put the 30 electronics. Your own fuel production will provide the extra 50 fuel. And then hopefully you have enough metal laying around for this 50 requirement here. And then you'll launch a rocket after 4 sols and 4 hours. You'll make $2 billion, which is really good. Don't think I need to explain why $2 billion is nice to have. Drone issues, building's not working, planetary anomalies found. What I'm curious about is if we have any anomalies out here. What about our research? Haven't checked that in a second. Mars initiative, hopefully that gets done very soon. Minus 10 electricity. And we just need these 2 domes to be put together. But we're gonna need
Sector
a lot
scan.
of metal. Oh, look at all of this metal. Did we just finish scanning that? Man, there's like so much metal out here. We're actually pretty well off. I think we're gonna be okay. So much metal.
Research complete.
Earth Mars initiative. I hope that we can get humans here before Sol 15. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is launch our first passenger rocket. So I might cut this part out because I like to take a lot of time. Well, I think in future series I'll cut this out, but for the first time I will show you my methods with setting up this initial thing. So you want to come to your filters. First time I ever seen this, it made 0 sense to me, but go ahead and hit clear. So now this is blank, right? Go to age group. We don't want children which it won't give you children anyways, but go ahead and click that. We don't want middle-aged people, and we don't want seniors. Seniors actually can't work. Middle-aged people are almost seniors, so that's why we don't want these two. And then we want to do the thumbs up on youth, which means that ideally, if you can help it, then we want the youngest people possible. But most of your applicants are going to be adults, but that's fine. We're not going to do anything for that. Like, if all else fails, then we'll take the adults. Let's go ahead and hit apply. I don't know if you need to hit apply. They can actually just hit back. Then we want to go to flaws, and we want to do the thumbs down on all traits. Now this is going to be rather quite limiting, so we can come back and change this later on. But the thing is now we're looking at people who are, you can look over here on the right, they're youths, and if you look at their little traits, none of these are going to be anything negative. You never really want negatives anyways. Just because it's going to just like always be causing like little issues here and there. So now let's go through, choose the specializations. Now this is showing us roughly how many people that we can bring along for certain things. So first off, let's do a thumbs up on engineers, hit apply. So this is kind of singling out some engineers. So let's go ahead and see which ones we like. A physically attractive gamer. Yeah, right. But anyways, they're an engineer. Another engineer here. And another engineer here. None of them have flaws. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh yeah, and another thing. Go to specialization. Now we can uncheck this because we have all the engineers that we want, right? Another big thing is just hit thumbs down on tourist. We're not bringing tourists, not for a while. So then we're going to want 3 botanists. So let's go through, find the botanist, enthusiast, vegan, gamer, good. Composed, good. A vegan, good. So now we have a total of 3 botanists. And we have a total of 3 engineers, and none of these people have any flaws. Very, very good. Continue back, go to specialization, uncheck the botanist because we have them. Let's go find some geologists. Ideally, I would want maybe 3 here, but I will take, so 3 botanists for the food, 3 engineers for the factory, and I'll take as many as possible, but I'd rather have none. Ooh, you want to know something crazy? Something absolutely crazy is look at that rugged trait. No comfort penalties when eating unprepared food or having no residence. Right? So I figured this is like totally like, what is that? Conspiracy-ish. Imagine setting up your first dome with nothing but rugged people and you don't build any residences because clearly right there, no comfort penalties, having no residence. On top of that, you wouldn't need to build a diner or a grocery because again, no comfort penalties when eating unprepared food. So that would be really insane. You would only need to focus on just like work buildings. Something to think about. Don't know if you'll go and try this, but it is a very interesting idea. We definitely don't need any scientists because we're not going to set up a science lab, at least for a while. I'll take 2 geologists. That seems like pretty good. 2 workaholics. One of them is physically attractive. Let's go ahead and pick up a medic as well. Rugged, fit, that's probably okay. Just 1 medic's probably enough. So we're up to 9 people. So let's go through, let's filter. We have all the specializations I believe that we're going to need. So let's go ahead and just hit apply for now. And what we're going to do instead is look for people with good perks. So what are some good perks? Hey, look, we got 2 geniuses. So let's hit thumbs up, apply. Genius. Not a genius. I don't know where that genius went. Oh, he's probably got a flaw is what it is. But let's go ahead and get rid of this person here. Don't need them. And we don't need this person here. Vegan, genius, religious. Nice. Generates research when at high sanity. So that's nice. We'll bring this guy along just because if we can maintain a high sanity, then he'll be producing some free research, which is nice. Let's go back to the filters. Let's go back to the perks. And let's choose one remaining thing that we do like. Workaholics. Workaholics are really, really, really good. So a workaholic, religious, rugged. This guy is actually rather perfect. And a scientist who's composed and is a workaholic. Very good. Which means workaholic means that if they're working outside of their preferred position, like if the scientist isn't in a science lab, he'll still do a really good job. It won't be quite as good as a scientist, or like let's say he's working in an engineer slot. It won't be quite as good as having a straight up engineer in that slot, but it'll still be like relatively decent. And if they have a high morale, then he'll actually roughly even out to an actual specialist who's at like a medium amount of morale. So that's very good. This is everyone that we're going to need. So let's go ahead and launch that. There are 12, but 0 residency slots. Launch anyways, because as a matter of fact, we do have residency slots. We have more than enough. Okay. 9 polymer. 8 polymer. Crazy. Let's go ahead and get this. As a matter of fact, something that I totally spaced is the Hanging Gardens is going to... Oh, maintenance is only concrete. That's really good. It's going to require 2 whole water for itself, though. But we should be okay. And let's actually get a cargo rocket, actually. Let's do prefab buildings, and let's do $1 billion worth of moisture vaporators. That's fine. Let's pick up, you know, just 2 more polymers, a couple more electronics, and a couple more machine parts. Let's go kind of crazy on the machine parts. I think I like this. 1 more drone. Alright. Hopefully our training has prepared us for this. So breaking down why exactly we're doing this, we don't need any other extra buildings. We have the machine parts factory. We have 1 fuel refinery, which is enough, and a drone hub. We don't need sterling. We don't need anything. But moisture vaporators, this is going to mean that our water supply won't be being drained constantly. And on top of that, like, we'll use the water supply as like a last ditch effort to keep everyone moisturized. But these moisture vaporators are going to be very, very handy. So let's go ahead and get those. We don't need any RC buildings, any extras right now. We have enough commanders. Explorer, we only need 1. Transport, we only need 1. At least for right now. Way later in the future, we might need more, but for now, 1's fine. Drones, always want to pick up as many as possible. We're not going to want to call in metal. We're not going to want to call in concrete. That's just a waste of a lot of cargo capacity, right? Food, same thing. We're not going to call this in because we want our colonists to be self-sufficient right away, like immediately, as soon as they land. So we're going to put the botanist in our fungal farm, and hopefully they produce enough food to sustain everyone. Polymers, having just a couple is okay. We don't have anything that requires maintenance of it or with it, but having, you know, we can actually drop 1 and just take the machine parts instead. There's a couple buildings that need it to be constructed, like a playground, but they're not going to require it to be maintained, so we'll just take a couple with us. Machine parts, of course, we need a lot of machine parts always, and in the beginning we might not actually be producing more than we're consuming, but having a bunch of extras will be okay. And once we can bring in more colonists, then we will eventually start producing more than we're consuming. Electronics, we just need enough to make it to the point where, kind of the same thing with the machine parts, we actually produce more than we are consuming. So that'll be way in the future when we set up the electronics factory. I wouldn't recommend getting this now because it's going to spread you too thin. You're going to need to mine metal, mine rare metal, staff up a machine parts factory, staff up an electronics factory, and this will come later on, right? And before an electronics factory, and so before you set up an electronics factory, you'll set up a polymer factory. Polymer factory, hopefully you research by the time you set that bad boy up. Oof, I just no, okay, this is all still good. Let's go ahead and launch this, because I think I've covered everything. Orbital probes, I wouldn't bother. Maybe in like a supply rocket or like the little supply pod, grabbing a couple of these. If you research the deep scanning orbital probe thing, because then at that point you can potentially kind of poke around, and if you find a deep metal deposit, then that'll be all the metal you'll probably need until, like, you know, Sol 300 or something, 400 or 500. So later on that can be useful, but the initial 4 that we brought should be enough to help you scan around to set up your beginning. Funding, we're almost out of money now, so this is what we're gonna take with us. Our last final rocket, max cargo, and almost out of funding, so we're getting as much as we can out of everything. We're wringing water out of a rock. Okay. So go ahead and launch that. The humans can orbit Mars for, I think, like 3 whole days, but eventually they do need to come down or they will all die. Okay. This is on its way to being constructed. This will be a bit while afterwards. This guy's still grabbing metal. 28. Let's go ahead and go into times 3 speed and just give it a bit of time. Just need time at this point. What are they consuming polymers for? What are you guys doing? I don't think that there's anything we needed it for, so I wonder what they are using it on. Shouldn't be domes. All of the polymer was just consumed. I wonder what for. What's going on here? All of our drones are busy is what I reckon it is. But I'm just curious. What happened to our polymer, man? This doesn't require polymer, does it? Oh, they're putting together this ginormous hanging gardens. Okay, so that's fine. We still don't require any maintenance with our polymers. As you can see, second line, or second little cluster of words there. Polymers consumption 0. Polymers maintenance 0. So we won't need to consume any, so having 1 polymer isn't the end of the world. It's okay, we could have 0 and we'd be okay. As long as we have machine parts, we can keep everything running. So now the drones are a bit busy to be bringing over machine parts to this universal depot, but these 2 drones aren't doing it either. As a matter of fact, things are getting a bit hectic, so what we're going to do is pack up 2 drones from the drone hub and give each of our RC commanders 1 extra drone. Hopefully this helps out just enough. All this stuff needs maintenance right now. How many do they have? This guy's got 5 actually. That's way more than I thought. So let's go ahead and -1 from him, add 1 to him. So 4 each. Hopefully that's enough. Eep. Hopefully we're not. No. So hopefully the zone where the meteors are landing stays over here away from us.
Resources are low.
Typically what I've noticed is that tends to be how it is. And then finally, one of the last few things is we're going to need to set up Moxies. Roughly 2 Moxies should be enough to completely supply like this whole entire thing. Maybe as much as 3 or 4, but Moxies are fine. Like, I haven't really talked about them so far because all they consume and cost to build is metal, which should come rather quite easily. This building's primed and ready. We're going to want 3 people, and we're not going to want to do a heavy workload because they're working outside of the dome. This building, hopefully this building gets done soon. Let's put it on a high priority just so we can make sure that it gets done. Let's check what the maintenance is on that building. I don't think it's anything important. I think it's just metal. I hope.
Sector scanned.
Yep, just metal. New anomalies found. 3. Let's go into the map world and look. Ooh, that's decent. Let's check in on what researches we're looking at. Productivity training. This is actually the next step because engineers and geologists, which we're going to bring, which are going to be doing important jobs, plus 10% or plus 10 performance in their jobs. So let's go ahead and do that. And as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and get our RC Explorer and have him do this one and then this one. And then I think, oh yeah, look at that. We can have him, I didn't know you could do that. You can queue a movement. So he'll do this anomaly, scan this anomaly, and then move over here and sit there. So that's pretty cool. Low storage, electricity, and oxygen. So that's okay. We just need the metal to be brought on in. What was that noise? Get rid of this, get rid of that, this, that, this, okay, and that. We're not worried about anything quite yet. But as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and do our first set of Moxies. So what we can do is one sort of like this, and then maybe another one sort of like that. And then all we need to do is set up a pipe here and a pipe there. Put pipe valves on those just in case there's a leak or a Moxie explodes or something crazy. Then we can shut off oxygen in that direction. So nice, this pipe valve is finished, which means that we should go through and set up a power switch underneath. We just want to, turn that on. Maybe that was the issue that they were running into, was that switch was left off for so long.
Anomaly found.
Foolishly on my part. A new anomaly? Oh, it sounded like a meteorite anomaly. Yes. We just need the goods to keep on flowing. Looks like we're running into some major issues with not having enough
Research
drones.
complete.
Let's go and land. Actually, no, I don't. Yeah, I do want to land this, but I don't want to land it too close to anything. So let's go and land it here. Hopefully that's fine. Don't want to tag even our unbuilt wind turbines because eventually these are going to be fully constructed, right? And we don't want the rocket to damage them on its way up. Leaving this spot open for our humans to land. As a matter of fact, we're running into issues. So let's see how many. We can bring 6 drones. Not really enough for me to want to do it. So I'd rather bring a whole 10 instead of wasting 100 million on sort of nothing. Let's see what goods we have here. What are they bringing? A bunch of extra machine parts. Looks like things might be getting maintained out here.
Anomaly analyzed.
New techs are available for research. Let's go and see what we've unlocked. So sometimes you'll unlock an anomaly or research an anomaly, and you'll be able to have access to various technologies. Like previously, once we finished productivity training, it only unlocked live from Mars. However, because of that anomaly, we now have access to the research topic Martian education, giving us the Martian University. Probably not going to use it, at least not for now. That's like a mid-game thing. General training, this is good if you are doing the no specialist challenge. This is like the best thing you can possibly do. Colonists without the proper specialization suffer a lower work penalty. Very, very good. Even like, that's like a mid-game, like once you fully set up your initial, whatever you call it, your initial like colony, like the beginnings of it, and once you start to grow your population and there's a lot more people without specializations in their jobs, then that's when this becomes rather important. But for now, we don't really need to worry about it. Let's go ahead and queue up, I guess, low G hydrosynthesis. We're not going to build this, but so ideally we'd want to do something that we are going to use. I mean, we can do adapted probes, get it out of the way. Let's get water reclamation out of the way as well. And that's fine and dandy. Let's continue on. So we want to finish this up very, very quickly. We want this to get done as quick as possible. So let's go into ×3 speed. I mean, maybe it would be a good idea too. Oof, man. Maybe it would be a good idea too.
Sector scanned.
More water. Bring in extra drones. I mean, I'd really, really, really rather not. Let's go and set all the microdomes up to the maximum.
Resources are low.
Getting kind of worried, man. Really hope this works out in our favor. Turn this off. We only need 3 people coming out here to work in it. Should provide enough food. It requires almost an entire Moxie's worth of oxygen. So, what is this? 1 that we're gonna need. 2 for these 2. 3, 4, 5, 6 oxygen. And if we look at a Moxie should produce, I believe, 3. A total of 3. So we're going to need a 4th Moxie. So let's go and find a decent little location for this. Ooh, see, planning, planning, planning. As a matter of fact, I've kind of ruined this because all of the piping locations for the end of this have been completely ruined. Like, we won't be able to put any pipes leading out this way. So what I'm gonna do is just go through and cancel all of these. And instead we can fit them in here. We don't really need to worry about the landing pad because landing pad makes rockets landing and taking off safe. So let's go through and put down a total of 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That should be fine. Okay, back into ×3 speed. We just want them to finish everything. Let's see how many more days. So they have around 4 days left before the population up there starves to death. They're going to bring enough food to, yeah, see, 12 passengers and 12 pieces of food. So they have enough food to like last a day or two. But let's go through, select another passageway. And we want to continue. So from the left side, if we're looking at the inside here, left to a right. So there we go. It's going to create this cool wind turbine looking, like a turbine looking setup. It's really, really cool looking once it's all put together. I really hope that this video isn't too long, but I wanted to get the entire beginning set up as well as give my like initial, like any tips that I think would be necessary. Later on, I won't really, like if I make another series, I won't really be talking about all of this. I'll just kind of be chugging along, tossing out little tips here and there, and it'll probably definitely be a shorter video. This one, I think it's rather quite necessary to provide all this information. And I'm curious, what is going on? There's machine parts here. Literally, someone just needs to pick up a machine part and repair these, but for some reason they're not. Maybe the issue is that we're producing too much concrete. So let's turn these off during the day. We don't need this much concrete anymore. So there's that. And we just need to keep on collecting metal. And as a matter of fact, this guy no longer is collecting metal. So let's go over here, choose an area with a lot of metal, and have him continue. Yeah, they're just focusing too much on that. Let's go ahead and put these all on the max priority. Let's put the fuel refinery on max priority. Let's put this on max priority. Put this on max priority. Okay, so hopefully they focus on keeping all of this up and running before anything else. Let's go through, finish setting up our power cables. That's a good spot for one. Okay. Pipe there, and then one last final power switch underneath this one once we're all set and done. And as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and do... Oh, you know what? We're also going to need... Actually, this one is touching this power cable, so it's fine. But we're also going to need a power cable under here. And then maybe potentially even a power switch like right here. Reason being is that we can keep power going to the Moxie, but shut off power to everything down the road. But as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and quickly set up a pipe valve on that one, just in case there's a leak or something.
Sector scanned.
Ideally, I would want to kind of destroy these and move them, so I think I'm going to. Is there a button for salvage? There is. Look at that. Let's go ahead and salvage up all of these. And alternatively, we want to put these wind turbines off to the side of it. You know, as a matter of fact, let's do one wind turbine farm kind of reaching into the middle here. So we want a total of 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so there's 8 there. I kind of feel like that's sloppy, but I don't want to spend too much time planning on a YouTube video. And then I never counted into the fact that we have a spare one here. But I guess this one really is fueling the drone hub, which I also didn't take into account. We're also going to need some extra electricity for our Moxies, which require, I believe, 1 whole wind turbine each. No, 1 wind turbine should be enough for 2 of them, so everything seems to be doing alright, at least. Okay, so now all this stuff's up and running because I moved up the priority. And we just need this guy to bring in just a little bit more metal, and we're almost ready to land the humans down here. A little bit more concrete over here as well. And as a matter of fact, we can actually turn this one off. We'll salvage it, because the only reason that I was making it be constructed was because I wanted access to these wind turbines. But now that we're moving them over here, we don't really need to worry about that as much. And like hindsight, I kind of wish that I would have made like everything just a bit more symmetrical, but it will be okay in the end. We need this passage to be set up, and we just need the turbines set up. So just waiting on that to get all done, and we'll be just about fully ready. We also need the supplies, our storage for water and oxygen done. So ideally what I would have done is actually constructed all this stuff first and then built up the really important job sites. Because like right away it's going to require 2 electronics before anyone even moves in, 2 machine parts before anyone moves in. So not the greatest, but at least they're paused, so they're not going to be consuming anything right now. This water extractor is producing water for some reason. Main reason is probably the fact that this moisture vaporator isn't doing anything. How much longer on this rocket? Still need quite a while on that rocket to finish up. I don't think these stupid things move, these dust geysers or whatever they're called.
Sector scanned.
Turbines. Once the turbines are done, then we're ready. And the storage, I guess. And we'll probably want just a little bit of metal moved on in, and then as a matter of fact we're going to need power to be sent over to this building, so let's quickly go over that way, set that up. Oh no, look at that, this building is going to contaminate this fungal farm, so we'll cancel that fungal farm and try and remember not to construct it here. Oh, and as a matter of fact we're going to have to move this rare metals extractor maybe back too, so let's go ahead and demolish that as well. Earlier we were talking about it. We can actually set this one up at the max distance right here, just out of range of that. But it's also out of range of our drone commander, so all sorts of issues here. With even more planning, I would have been in an even better spot, so it's always important to be a bit cautious with things. Service quality of 45. It's usually 35, but because we have the Vista, 45. And then we're adding another 30 with our hanging gardens, bringing it up to 75, which is better than smart homes. So very, very cool to see. Let's check out oxygen and water supplies. We're starting to gather up multiple
Sector scanned.
hours worth, and hopefully we build up to the point where we have multiple days worth. That's what we're hopefully going to build up to. We just need the power to be done, which I'm going to do max priority on those. Now that they picked up all the goods from over here, we can actually replace our little dome here and turn it off, keeping things capable of being planned out. Starting to get lots of metal in. All of this stuff up here should be hopefully getting maintained. Ideally someone would bring metal over here, and it looks like this guy's doing it. You can see there. Bring in 1 metal, and because this one's missing a metal, I reckon that there's someone bringing a new metal in. So that is a very good example of things being moved around. This thing no longer needs to collect concrete because there's this one right here collecting concrete already. Oh, as a matter of fact, I think the issue is this. We have metal. Come over here. Let's go right here and tell him to collect concrete and bring it on down. As soon as he brings in like 1 or 2 loads, then I think we're ready to pull in the humans. We have these buildings
complete.
here. So 12 people is all we have to work with, right? And we want all of these shifts on important buildings to be in the morning. which means that in the afternoon we can turn on something like this diner. So let's go ahead and turn off this work shift completely, leave one space open. Because they're working in a dome and because there's no storm, they're not working at nighttime, we can actually put our diners on heavy workloads. Always take those into consideration, the heavy workloads. Turn off the morning shift, put on heavy workload, and deactivate one worker slot. So let's turn on all of our buildings real quickly just so we can get a full idea of what we got going on here. So right now we're at 13 work shifts. Probably because we want this only on during the evening heavy workload. So that is all 12 of our people with a job site. So metal factory or metal extractor, machine parts factory, fungal farm. You might not always get the fungal farm. I wouldn't recommend building these hydroponic farms. I never build these. I don't. They are just so inefficient in my like limited experience of this game. Every time I built them, they just weren't doing good enough for me to be satisfied. Fungal farms are alright. I kind of don't like these buildings too because they require so much oxygen. They require so much power. They're just kind of annoying to deal with, but they're way better than the hydroponic farms. Hydroponic farms, I would say their only benefit is that they're rather compact. We can fit one right in the middle of this area here. We could fit 3 in this area and 3 over here. We could fit a lot, right? But what I think, like your first farm, whenever you're setting up something similar to what I'm doing here, either go for fungal farms and alternatively, you're hoping that you get those first. I would honestly research just down the biotech tree until you unlock either fungal farm or there's the normal farm, which is from the research soil adaptation. Guarantee that you get one of those. So I didn't really cover this earlier, but your outsource, I would guarantee that you get one of those. And if you don't, then maybe go for a second outsource and try and get it if you got like a really good like beginning area for your population. Might be worth trying to save it, but if you don't, then I mean, you could give the hydroponic farms a shot. Like, you know, I'm not like all knowing here. I'm not omniscient in terms of which farms work best on Mars, but hydroponic farms, to me, every time I've used them, didn't like them. But if you have no other options, then, you know, one would probably be okay because the fungal farm, we're only having 3 people working it anyways, and a hydroponic farm can only take 3 worker slots anyways. So this might be actually, pretty good, but my advice, go for a fungal farm or a normal big farm that takes up a whole big triangle. If you can help it, I would do one of those 2 first. So right here, I would probably set it up in this one here, or maybe over here, if I had the indoor farm. But because we have a fungal farm, we kind of just plugged it in. Really anywhere is fine. So let's go ahead and go into ×2 speed. Don't want to move it too quickly. And as soon as we get our population set up and living happily, I think I'm going to end this episode. But we do want things to be rather tip-top before the end of the episode. Everything looks rather tip-top. So looks like they're finally pulling off getting the electricity up and running. We're going to need 50 spare, another 5 there, another 10 there, so 65. 65 spare electricity. That's what we're looking for. Only during the daytime though. Only during the morning shift really. So working around with different shifts on buildings, like your machine parts factory, if there's only one shift, then it only requires 50 electricity during that shift, right? So you're never really going to have it running at night unless you have like a lot of people living here. So at nighttime is typically the time that I'd recommend running your concrete extractors, your fuel refineries, and all that jazz. Everything else that's not like too important, like these domes are each going to require a concrete every 5 days. The big one's going to require polymer, which is kind of annoying. We're probably going to need to deliver some polymer down here. I was talking about we don't need maintenance of polymer, but I forgot about the big dome. So hopefully you're not paying attention, but hopefully you're design flaw. This is spooky, man. But hopefully you were following along and what's it called? Or hopefully you're following along up to this point and you pick that piece of advice up, because we are going to actually need some polymers every once in a while. I believe it's like 0.4 a day at this point, having a maintenance of 2. So ideally the next rocket, we're going to want to set up polymer factories, and I'll get into all sorts of like other really, really neat tips, but I won't delve too much into it. I was about to talk about polymer factories, Stirling generators, and batteries. You can set up all sorts of things, but I won't get into that right this moment. Design flaw. I'm really worried about this. I'm like half tempted to just never click on it, but let's click on it. We'll take things as they come. Design flaw. The wind turbine's propeller barely rotates under the Martian wind. We have a problem. A major flaw in our wind turbine design is now apparent. Their working is hampered by the gradual accumulation of fine Martian dust. That is an inevitability on Mars. As a result, all wind turbines are producing less power than we expected. Mission Control has suspended further construction of wind turbines until we manage to come up with a lighter design and a better mechanism. This is a headache and a half. So we cannot construct any more wind turbines until we research this. As a result, all wind turbines are producing less power than we expected. So we're going to do this, try and fix all existing wind turbines. Because we don't want the existing ones, so like these here and these here, to just straight up produce less forever. So we're going to spend a bit of machine parts. Luckily we have like a pretty good accumulation of them from Earth, but that is a bit of a headache. So now we're in kind of a rough spot. We're making 200 research a day. Let's see if we have any spare. We do have this one over here and this one and these two. So we should have enough to quickly research this breakthrough, which requires 1500. That's not much at all. So let's research this. Let's bring it to the top. We need this done like ASAP. Sooner than that, actually. So let's click on this. Let's scan anomaly and queue up a second scan anomaly, and hopefully he gets that done very quickly. So let's go into times 3 speed. We have roughly 31 hours. We're running out of time, man. Well, you know what? I'm freaking out for nothing. We don't need the machine parts factory to run right now, because we have enough for things to run okay for a while. So, I mean, we're kind of chilling, so I could honestly probably get ready to call down the humans roughly in this time frame right now. Let's go and turn this one on. Let's go and turn this one on. So everything is about to be turned on. Everything's got electricity, everything's got water. We're producing more water than we need. Water demand, what's this producing? 5 water. So next up, ideally, let's go ahead and... Oof, man, I'm really worried. They need to get this done now. Let's put all the domes on max priority. Those are mission critical. Same thing with apartments. Everything that humans are dealing with, I like leaving on max priority. Not sure if that's the most efficient way to go about it, but it's something that I like doing regardless. Buildings that they work in, max priority. Okay. Water towers and oxygen tanks, max priority as well. Go ahead and make sure our drone hub's max priority. Hey, they're continuing to construct them anyways. They're dastardly. So here's the morning shift. We have 36 spare electricity. Not quite enough to run the machine parts factory, but like I said, not too important. I think we're ready to try and land these guys. It's just about. Well, let's wait for the domes to be completely repaired.
Sector scanned.
So hopefully someone's doing that right now. Yep, there's that one. Okay, we have enough electricity. We are okay. This is I think we're ready. I think we're just about ready. So hopefully if you're following along, all of my tips have guided you to success so far. So this is what I meant by like we're working against the clock here. This is everything that we've set up so far, and it requires metal to be maintained, requires machine parts to be maintained. So that's why we brought enough machine parts to keep all of this running. We need, you can see there, machine parts maintenance 1.8, so roughly 2 machine parts per day is what we need to make, right? Let's check out metal maintenance, roughly 2. So as long as we can get 2 metal, well, a total of 4, because the factories, they produce 1-to-1, right? So they consume 1 metal, make 1 machine part. Because we need 2 machine parts maintenance per day. That means that we're going to need 2 extra metal production per day. And so here it says 2, so that means 2 more. So we roughly need around 4 metal production per day from this. And if we can produce that or greater, then we'll be in a pretty good spot. So everything looks good. We have how much oxygen and water stored up. We have a day and 16 hours worth of oxygen stored. And then we have 20 hours worth of water stored. So it's probably in my best interest to finally set up our moisture vaporators. So, well, as a matter of fact, we'll just wait a little bit of time. I think we're ready to land. Okay, let's hope I'm not a total klutz here and ruin something. Let's land it. Nice, and so it seems like we are no longer able to actually click on these. Yeah, we're not able to click on those, the wind turbines, but this planning is good because all the ones that we've already placed are okay. Even though they require more. Oh no. Oh wait, I was about to say we're gonna ruin all of these, but we're okay.
Research complete.
Nice. Design flaw finished. A brief, tired cheer emanates through the science team, indicating they have finally found a solution. The schematics of our wind turbines have been updated. The new design is so good that we expect a boost to their production by 15%. Nice. So, what seemed to be something rather malicious has turned into something rather fortuitous. So, luck is on our side. Research complete. Low-G hydrosynthesis is up next. Okay. Things are running well. Turn this building onto this little thing here means that only specialists are allowed to work in this building.
Milestone achieved.
Same thing here. We have 1 medic, so we'll make sure that it's only that person, and in this building too. Sorry, not that one. But see, like we have some random scientists working here. No, we only want certain people working in certain buildings. So only geologists are moving in here. Sorry if that's really, really loud.
New colonists have arrived.
Okay. Okay. So now that that's all dealt with, a new beginning.
Full of hope and determination, the first founders have set foot on the Red Planet.
The next 10 souls will be full of difficulties and dangers, but also with great promises and opportunities. It is now to us to prove that Mars can be a doorway to greater riches and the future of the human civilization. Even the most epic adventures begin with a single step. Arrival of additional colonists temporarily suspended until the colony proves able to sustain human life. Your founder colonists must survive for 10 souls before additional people can arrive. The colony will be evaluated positively before the period ends in the event the first human is born on Mars. If you feel you're up to the challenge, try constructing a medical building, raising the comfort of the founders as much as possible with service buildings. So, something really nice about the Hanging Gardens with this specific design that we're going with here is that it provides a service quality of 100 once it's fully constructed. On top of that, boosting the service quality of the apartments that people are living in. So we should have a very, very, and the vista. Oh, the vista. So we're going to have a very, very high comfort amongst all of our people. So a new baby should be born pretty quickly, honestly. We're producing four metal. For some reason, do we have another geologist? I think we do somewhere. Engineer, scientist, engineer. So let's go through. I bet the geologist is working somewhere he shouldn't be working. I thought we had 3 geologists. Did we not? Did we not? Oh, we only brought 2 geologists. Okay, well, that's fine. Let's go ahead and turn this off then. That's fine. 4.3. Like I said, we needed at least 4. 2 people was enough. Milestone achieved. Produce food. So that's what's nice about the fungal farm is it produces food every single day. You don't need to worry about like various farms that take multiple days for things to happen. Every single day the fungal farm produces something. Real quick, I'll show you if we hit So see, there's a 4.9 food produced every single day. Let's see what happens if we hit heavy workload. It gets pushed up to 6.5. That's insane. Okay, so things are chugging along and everything's rather perfect. This is perfect. I'm rather happy with this. Who's this person? This is our genius, right? As long as they have high sanity, which shouldn't be too much of a problem, at least for now. Kind of want to keep them safe, kind of tucked away. They're the person working in our grocery. So as long as the grocery person, we could get rid of the heavy workload on them. This is going to reduce service comfort, but that's okay. We don't need this building because we have the hanging gardens and just a high base comfort anyways with the vista. And again, the hanging gardens. Hanging gardens is really, really, really good. I like going for it anyways, like right off the bat with other builds that I've done. And yeah, hopefully very soon we'll be in the greatest of positions. Let's see. Hopefully it shows us our food our food consumption soon. We might end up switching this to heavy workload. I don't want to because they're working outside the dome, but we might have to. Just depends on how much food we're actually consuming per day. I doubt it will be that high though. And so then hopefully we can start. What's the storage of this building? Only 30 food storage. So I talked about it earlier. You don't need food storages, but with this building, it looks like we are going to need food storages. So the building is actually facing towards the store here. And so, ooh, the food storage is right there. So if we build a food storage over here, I think that'll be neat. Depot, food depot. There we go. So, just like that. You can see how much food they have left. Oxygen, we are consuming, I reckon, all of the oxygen. Oh no, we're producing just a little bit of extra oxygen. So as a matter of fact, before we find ourselves in a sticky situation where we're on the verge of suffocating, let's go ahead and simply set up one more of these. Right there. We can do a pipe here. Let's go through and finish up all of the pipe valves that we were talking about earlier. We want switches set up. We need a switch here, so let's go ahead and do that one. Power switch underneath. Go through, down through the line and make sure everything's tip top. Just in case there's ever a leak. We don't need to worry about it. We'll be able to isolate any issues. And you want this set up with every single pipe and cable leading out of your place. So right here, we want another switch because what if there's a leak here? That could be really bad very quickly. And let's go through, because you never know. Like, it's hard to know what all of the things can happen with various buildings. Let's construct pipes alongside all of, not pipes, but pipe valves. Let's construct valves along all of that. The power supplies, all these wind turbines are directly connected to the domes, so we should never have to worry about those guys. The only thing is if a meteor falls out of the sky and smashes all of these, then we're going to have to turn off everything over here. So there's that. Everything's rather tip-top. Look at this. Let's check the service quality of the apartment. Not 45 yet. Probably take just a second for things to completely turn on, but... Or sorry, not 75 yet. It should go pretty soon. This is going to provide 100 service comfort. Very, very, very good. And then soon that'll be 75, and a baby should be born relatively soon after that, considering the fact that we actually have a doctor, a medic here. He has high morale.
Research complete.
And he's on a heavy workload. He should be able to make everyone relatively pretty happy. Anomaly analyzed, didn't mean to do that. Research, we have the, what should we call it now at least? Polymer factory finished. Adapted probes should finish up pretty soon. And then water reclamation soon after. Let's go ahead and queue on, I guess, advanced Martian engines. Don't really want to, but... Ooh, low G drives. Let's move that on up. I mean, adapted probes is almost finished. Let's let that finish, then do low G drives. This is a good one. You always want to be prioritizing what is going to be most beneficial to you. Low G drives is going to allow drones and rovers to move a bit faster. Very, very good. I haven't been paying attention. This is dangerous. I haven't been paying attention to the amount of metals because, well, honestly, we should be consuming more than we are, or producing more than we're consuming. But either way, it's rather irresponsible to not. pay attention to certain things. So let's find out where this guy is. What are you doing? What is he doing? Let's send him over here to pick up metals and to bring them here. Okay, neat. Gonna want a pipe valve on that. And soon after, as soon as this pipe valve's done, put this on low priority. As soon as the pipe valve's done, we'll want to put up a power cable, then put a switch on that power cable. Okay. Things are looking decent. Just want to make sure that there's no errors at this point. And we're almost to the point where we have a fully functioning and fully sustainable population on Mars. Oh, stupid annoying building or thing. Everything is isolatable. Don't know if that's a word, but I just said it, so. Okay, let's check now. Service comfort is still only 45. Kind of annoying. At this point, I think we can actually turn this building on. Only during the day is it going to require people to come work, but look at that, we're producing a 3.5. So this puts a grin on my face because we can actually turn off their heavy workload too. Just to preserve some sanity, but we're producing more machine parts than we're consuming. We're producing more metal than we're consuming. Now all we gotta do is maintain a little bit of electronics, maintain a couple of polymers, until we finally set up buildings that do that for us. And then we'll be in the greatest of positions. What's going on over here? We're running out of water. Water is going down. Water demand went up. Because during the nighttime, we're actually running our fuel refinery, it seems. Because this whole thing is set up via pipes. Well, maybe not. Maybe I am... No, go away, Storm. Oh, lucky, man. If you're playing this game, and, like, I wanted the challenge just to kind of prove... I wanted to turn on, like, the challenging things just to prove, like, my ideas here. Like, I'm playing very, very vanilla, and things are maxed out in terms of the difficulties. But the reason I'm doing this is just to prove that everything works. But if you're going to be playing this on your own, I would suggest not doing the Dust Devil one. Other ones, totally manageable. The Dust Devils are so annoying, man. So I would recommend turning those off. Like, imagine a Dust Devil just rips its way through here. Ugh. I'd be totally boned, because it'd be turning off drones left and right, be turning off the domes, everything would just be falling to pieces. But I'm willing to put up with the challenge, so that's like the only thing I would recommend someone doesn't do. We have a spare person who doesn't have a job. It's a scientist. We can put him maybe here to work the morning shift. That's fine. Have them work heavy workloads. That's okay. 75 service or comfort. That's crazy. That's really cool. We can consume some of our polymer to build up a few final things, which are not a nursery. This only requires concrete, so let's go ahead and build one. Now I could go and put it like over here in the machine factory one, or somewhere just out of the way, but I guess we'll have one instead of a smart home. And then we'll build the playground for now, but eventually I am going to want to change that. So we don't want this one here because we're going to want to create a path this way, right? So we'll put it on the other side. Nursery. And a playground. There we go. Playground requires polymer to build, in case you didn't know. So that's why we brought, that was like the first thing on my mind was playground requires polymer. That's why I brought so much. Does this thing have enough fuel to launch it? It does not. As a matter of fact, let's start setting up our... Oh man, I don't like the way that that's in there. Let's start setting these up. Now, I'm not sure how exactly this works. I kind of figure that you can get them like this close to each other. But I kind of feel like even just the little zones overlapping isn't ideal, so I am going to go ahead and do this. I don't know how necessary that is in fact, but it'll be okay for now. So I don't want to build any under this rocket there was space for one more right around here. But of course, it's going to get ran over by the rocket, so. And ideally, actually, I would want to turn this one around. So let's go through and do that. So now these are all set up like that. Let's go ahead and connect up pipes down through all of this. Want to get as much as possible, like I said. Let's do this and then this. Let's do another one out this direction and 2 more this way. And then what we can do is connect them simply straight up each to this. Trying to be as efficient as possible. Not always going to be the case though. And as it turns out, one of these moisture vaporators is just out of range of our building, so we're not going to even want to construct it, right? Let's actually destroy those. And we'll just wait a bit before for this rocket here to get out of the way, and then we will go through with constructing it. Alrighty. Let's go into times 3 speed, actually times 2 speed. With humans on the planet, so you want to be as careful as possible. Service comfort 100. Oh, I forgot, this building requires 2 whole water by itself. Not great, but I mean it'll be okay. Once we set these up, then we'll be in a pretty good spot. They're gonna require power each, so let's construct a power system exactly the same. Okay. And like always, we're gonna want to set up pipes and power cable or power switches. I don't know how necessary it is for like a spot like this where the cable's just like 1 wide. How necessary it is to do that, set that up, but I will set it up regardless, just in case something unforeseen happens. Plenty of metal, plenty of stuff to get everything running, and with all these moisture vaporators, this should be enough to get us chugging along relatively unimpeded. However, this right here, this building can produce 4 water, right? But eventually, this 11,000 units of water is going to run dry. So we want to kind of make it last as long as possible, because, I mean, if this thing was running at max for a while, it'd probably run out before Sol 100, so not the greatest. And just like that, we're actually... You know what I could do? I could just construct all the domes. It's going to require a bunch of metal. But that'll be okay because, I mean, we're producing enough metal to sustain ourselves here. But we could get all these done and get the achievement right now. All we need is 1, 2, 3, 4. We need 1 more dome. That's so crazy. We're doing rather well. And underneath here, we're going to want to build up a power switch. So I'm going to do a power switch here.
Resources are low.
And then I'll do 1 low water. But we're producing enough, so I'm not worried about it. Let's do another switch here. And then a switch there. And I guess another switch here. I mean, pretty soon, I have a feeling a baby's going to be born. We have a rocket ready to launch. Let's go ahead and get it out of here. Farewell, rocket. I don't know if there is, but it would be cool if you could just turn off all the HUD. I don't think you can. Like on Tropico 6, something I always do is hit Alt X and the whole HUD disappears and you can get like a cinematic look at your island or your island. Oh, 350 research points. Genius Colonist is producing 150. That's insane, man. Low resource. So food is getting low. What's going on there? We're only we're only consuming 1 food a day. There's a bunch of food actually stored away inside of our service buildings. So if you look right here in front of the diner, there's a bunch of spare food. I like how there's a crying baby noise, but no babies on the carry yet. And then there's even more food here. So we have enough food. Like it says that that we have 0 food, but the buildings are all stocked full of food. So we'll actually be producing food over time. Production per soul. It went up a bit. It was at 4.9. Not sure what the little changes are, but Everything's literally tip-top. I don't think the population could be any happier. Keeping this person with as high a sanity as possible will be good. You can click on a dome to get an idea of what everyone's thoughts are. So average morale, getting kind of low, I'm not sure why. And then average comfort. So service buildings are full, the shopping. So the work shifts are relatively important, right? So all of these people here, working in the morning in this building, in the mine, out here in the fungal farm, all of those people are going to be busy all morning, right? So that's why we wanted the midday shifts turned on all these buildings. So all of these at least have the midday shift running. So that's pretty important. Just a little tip, just in case, like you wouldn't want, you know, the diner to be only operational whenever everyone's at work, because then no one will get to use it. Then they'll all be complaining. It says low storage of water, but we're producing more water than is demanded. So that's the important thing. Let's put this rocket on the lowest. And let's put this on the highest. Now, something relatively important is we should go through and set up another chain of movement. We'll do a fuel depot there, and then I guess another fuel depot. Hopefully here is within, I don't know, let's see. So to the left of the waste rock depot. Yeah, that should be fine. Not sure if that's left, I guess it's more up. But there's that. And we're gonna want this to be 0, then we're gonna want this to be, I guess, only 5. Then that should be okay. Oh wow, somehow they're managing to like carry the fuel all the way over here. That's kind of crazy. The storage, get that out of my face. Don't need to worry about it. Building's not working. What isn't working? Amoxie. Why not? Because it doesn't have no power. So all the switches have been set up. Let's go through, do the same thing with valves. Very, very important. As always. There we go. So that makes every single section isolatable. We should probably bring in polymers really soon. Polymers and then some spare electronics, because we don't need machine parts delivered anymore. Producing what we need. Don't need metal, we don't need food. Every single thing is pretty tip-top. We have all the electricity we need. We've actually probably... Alrighty, so we're at a delicate moment. Once the population is rather quite happy and we get the baby, the first baby born on Mars, then I'm gonna go ahead and end this episode. Maybe after just a couple more things, but very content with the way things have gone thus far. Yep, everything's super tip-top. Let's go ahead and get another switch slapped on in here. And now it's important to play in ×1 because let's see how much oxygen we've stored thus far. Right? We have 194 oxygen, but what's it called? A leak can get up to 30 oxygen, I think, per hour. So within a day, all of your oxygen's gone. And if you're in the middle of a storm, and the storm lasts for 3 more days and you can't produce oxygen, then you're just totally doomed. Nothing you can do at that point once it's too far gone. So it's best to be prepared. It's best to take things slow, because then you'll actually have a functioning little colony here. And it's also ideal to not scum save, but you know, like this game's hard, so I wouldn't really call it scum saving, but it's important to save your game pretty often, because I haven't saved it once this playthrough because I've grown rather confident in my ability to make sure everything's running rather well. We're in the middle of the daytime, so here's a moment where something that you can do is just turn off the electricity, like turn off a bunch of these. Like, how many are they producing? Whoa, is there a dust storm going on? They're really efficient. What the heck? Wow. So we could ideally turn off a bunch of them, and that'll decrease our necessary machine part production. We're only producing 2 per day. Even though it says 2.8, so I'm gonna have faith that they'll actually produce 2.8 and not just 2. So hopefully this number right here will continue to grow. The metals should continue to grow. Nope, probably not. Well, it just depends. I think that it gauges like your metal consumption, maintenance, and machine part, like all of these things, their consumption and maintenance. I think it bases it literally on just like what's happened the most previous day. I wish that the math was set up a bit better. Like, I just wish it took more things into account. Like, I don't know, like what roughly it should consume, like what your little colony should consume over the next couple of days, you know? Or like an average of what it should consume. That would be a much more ideal way to look at things. But we're producing 4.5, consuming, I doubt our maintenance or well, just our maintenance. I doubt our maintenance is that high. I guess we'll see. We have plenty of backup stuff, and we are producing something, so should never really become an issue. All of our valves are looking nice. Switches are all looking nice. Doesn't look like we need any extra switches anywhere, which is good. Go through and quadruple check, because the second that you realize that you done screwed up is, hopefully it's not too late when that happens. Yes, I really like the way that all things are looking. So let's say that like a meteor came crashing in and destroyed all of these. Right then, you would probably want to shut off your water extractor. You'd probably want to shut off all of this stuff over here, and then turn the switches on so that all of the spare electricity is being pumped directly in. So, one of the many cool ways that you can have things set up to be rather quite efficient. You know what? Let's get the achievement now. Let's hit play. A bit vulgar, but do it anyways. I guess not vulgar, but vain. That's vanity. Okay. Wow, luckily we got this genius tagging along, bringing us 150 spare research points per month. Or per soul. That's wild. Exploration, we need to select a new spot to scan, so let's just kind of open up. Let's do this entire plateau first before we go searching down here. Founder stage, 6 more souls, transportation problem. I figured by now baby would have been born, but rather quite unlucky today. Sanity's starting to tank a little bit. Comfort's going up though. Oh, there it is. The door towards the stars.
For the first time, a human has been born on Mars. It's truly a unique miracle.
Truly a unique one. It's a holy baby. The colonists have always felt like a family, but what makes the family stronger and more united is the promise of new life and better future. We have truly been blessed with a rewarding responsibility to carry the torch of hope. Let this blooming of life serve as a symbol for all humans. Mars is no longer a dead world. The colony has been evaluated positively. Additional colonists can be called from Earth, so you can only imagine just how effective we're gonna make things, considering there's only 2 people working here, but 8-day work slots. There's only 3 people working here, but 10, 15 work slots, and all of these can be pushed up to all sorts of untold numbers. A bunch of extra people in a fungal farm, a second fungal farm, producing even more food. So much potential. We want to flatten this area out here. Real quick, I just want to kind of geek out about my ideas. I want to build another dome here, right? This is an idea I had. And this one is going to be for tourists. So we'll be able to call in like a whole rocket full of tourists, even multiple rockets full of tourists. And they'll be able to come visit, and we'll build all sorts of stuff for tourists in this dome, the big dome here. But what we'll have is service buildings that provide service comfort, like a casino and a space bar, things like that here. And the, what's it called, tourists, they're not really concerned about going to the school or going to our factories and stuff. They're only concerned about the service buildings, right? So our population will be able to use them, so will all of the tourists. So that's just one really cool idea that I had. So much potential within our little population here. But I think I am going to end this episode. It's definitely been dragging on for quite a while, and this game, it makes me very excited. Like, and the fact that I'm actually getting good at it, because first few times that I played this game, it was just, I don't know, like I just wanted to be good at it, but I just didn't invest the time into getting good at it. So I'm hoping that, like, if you find this video and you watch, maybe not the whole thing, but at least picking up some tips from this video, then you're gonna be just so much more prepared, ready to actually make your own colony that's actually going to be functional. It'll be really, really cool. Let me check this real quick. If this was closer, then I'd honestly wait for that. But as you can see right now, we're producing oxygen and water, and we have, we don't have quite as much water as I had hoped at this point. So we need to get this rocket out of the way. That's going to be priority 1 next episode. Get this rocket out of the way. And once that's out of the way, set up the rest of the moisture vaporators. Maybe even go so far as to set up an extra water extractor. So that way, in case a dust storm comes and our water tanks all explode, then we'll be able to produce water with our extractors. Then we are solely hoping that they don't completely... We'd probably want to even set up a third one, but leave this one just turned off. Maybe 2 turned off for a while, and we'll only be producing water out of 1. But let's say we needed these 2, we can turn them on, and then all we would have to do is do the machine parts maintenance for these to get them running. So all sorts of really, really cool stuff going on. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you managed to, not managed to, but if you stuck around for this long, then please consider leaving a like. And if you want to follow along with this series, I'm also playing all sorts of other strategy games. Then be sure to subscribe if you want to check those out. Peace. Wrong button.